All right, this podcast is brought to you by Domino's Pizza, where you can get a medium pizza for 7.99. So,
Carry out only.
just from his reaction, he knows where I'm going with this. In the early 2000s, we had the great Jim Henson, which was the creative force behind all of our childhood, come up with a commercial for Domino's Pizza in the form of an adorable little Muppet whose name was Bad. It was like this little good thing. So this is my segment. Usually I have a smart ass introduction for my guest today, but obviously today my guest is a pro player, a person that I've had the chance to interact a lot with during my early career, somebody who molded a lot of careers just because he was just so damn good at the game and a very unique play style. At Andy, sir, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me, and thanks for doing this. I've been wanting somebody to do this for a while. I never envisioned taking it on myself, but I'm glad somebody stepped up and do it. And I watched every one of these, even the marathon that Romero did the other night.
Oh my god,
that was something. So, but this is fantastic. I really enjoy all this.
Oh well, thank you for the kind words. It's really fun to do, and like you said, it gives us something to do, like during COVID, and like a lot of people are without jobs. A lot of people are bored right now, and yeah, you're right. It was overdue. I felt like we should have had a piece of content like this for like years and years now. I mean, like better late than never, right? And again, thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. I'm very very excited to do this deep dive on your career because. Even though you retired, like if I can put it this way, like kind of one of the players that like made a huge impact on the scene. Your heights of talents were sometimes like unparalleled. So I'm really really excited to like talk about like your early career, talk about your perspective on things, and yeah, just take a deep dive on your careers. So obviously, say that we have. Sorry, I forgot. I lost all my manners. I'm so excited to do this. My name is Elvin. I'll be your host. We have Dark-Fenix this way, which is my co-host, which is back.
Don't forget him.
Yeah.
He took a hiatus to dodge the 5-hour podcast with Ramiro.
I was so happy when I saw that. I'm like, fuck, 5 hours. Especially you guys had technical problem at the beginning because I was in the chat. I'm like, they started like at 8, they finished like at 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think this one's gonna go that long.
Honestly, I don't mind. Like as long as it takes, like as long as there's content, I really don't mind.
Right.
I think you're a guy that's a little bit more straightforward. So yeah, I'm excited. Let's see what it does. So Phoenix.
So we're gonna start off. As we all know, you played. When did you start in the early years?
So the first time I ever played any laser tag was a Laser Storm. And that was in the summer of '96. So I was 16 years old, played it, and I thought, wow, I suck at this. I was horrible. And but I played it a few more times, and I got the hang of it. But then they opened up a Zap Zone near me, which had Ultrazone equipment. And I played that for religiously, like a ridiculous amount of times. And then the following year, they opened up a Laser Quest here, and it snowballed from there. But we branched out before then. When we had a big group of guys and played with that Zap Zone, and we went from we took a trip across the state, hitting different laser tag places. And Laser Quest Madison Heights was actually the first Laser Quest I played at. It was just a spring break day. Just showed up, played a game, and I thought, okay, whatever. And then, here it was 9 months later, we had a Laser Quest in town.
Nice. But when you started Laser Quest with all your package that you had playing other laser games and so on, did you have an edge? Were you better because you've played other systems?
A little bit, but I mean, we didn't have anybody competitive that played in Grand Rapids. The nearest center we had was 2 hours away. But in the better players from Zap Zone that I used to play with, they hated Laser Quest. They would not touch it. It was terrible for them. and they just didn't want to be a part of it. So they'd show up, they'd play a couple games with me, and they'd split. And the other members we had, I mean, it was just pack grabbers. That's all we were. We'd go in there, get a good pack, and win the game, and that was it.
So for what I'm understanding is that when you started, there was no base. So it was you guys that actually initially begun playing competitively or religiously at Laser Quest, I guess, right?
Yeah. The first time I ever went into the Grand Rapids Laser Quest, they were still painting the floors. The management at Zapzone was like, "Hey, there's another laser tag place opening up." And they gave me a rough idea of where it was, and I drove over there and I seen the sign, and I went in and I talked to, at that time, the general manager, and I think there's one or two staff members there, but they were still painting the floor and putting stuff together. Mm-hmm. And he gave me an application. He was like, "Oh yeah, I know who you are. Come on in. I'll hire you." I never turned the app back in. And then, so then I think he gave me some passes. No, a buddy of mine gave me some passes for their sneak peek. Just a couple weeks later. And it was funny. So I walked in, and my buddies were already there. And they already played their game, because I think he got one free game or whatever it was. And so they just came out of the game. They were standing there looking at their scores. And he gave me the pass. And he goes, I go, "How was it?" And he goes, "Oh, dude, it's awesome. You're going to love it." So I walked over to the counter and I said, "Hey, can I buy a membership?" And the guy goes, "Have you played a game yet?" And I said, "No." And he goes, and he looked at the lady behind him, and she's like, "Whatever, membership." Yeah. And so he goes, "What do you want your code name to be?" And I go, "Sniper." Right? And so, because that's what I played at Zapzone, which is a terrible code name. I mean, it's not as good as like 007, but I mean, it's pretty low. And so he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't accept that code name." And I go, "Really?" I go, "All right, let me think about it." So I walked away. I was standing over there looking at the members terminal, which didn't have anybody on it, but I was looking at it. And the lady walks over, and she goes, "Hey, if you want that code name, you can have it." I said, "Oh, okay, thank you." So I went back to the counter and filled out the paperwork and got it. That lady was Sue Miller.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know it till like 2 years later, right? I was like, "That's crazy." So I was like, "Oh." And then I went in and played my game, and away I went. So, and then we came back for the grand opening. I think I was like the fourth guy in line for the grand opening, and played a couple games. And I don't think I ever seen anybody that was in that grand opening ever again.
So now that you touch a bit on your code name, we talked about the Domino's pizza thing. So how did you get from Sniper to Bad Andy though?
Okay, so 2000. So sometime in 2000, they decided they wanted to get rid of the violent code names.
Okay.
Which you probably remember this push, Alex.
Yeah.
So they wanted to, like, Corwin used to be Carnage. So they wanted to get rid of. I remember specifically the three names that they wanted to get rid of was Carnage, Slaughter, and Sniper. Okay. And it was in the wake of a lot of U.S. turmoil with terrorist attacks and stuff like that. So they wanted to get away from violent code names. So 2000 was my first year playing competitively, and so they it was about the same time as the Domino's commercial. And so I remember coming out of games, we were playing different tournaments and stuff, and the Akron guys, the Canton guys and Akron guys, they're like, "Bad Andy, good score." They just say stupid shit like that. And so when they were like, "Yeah, you might have to change your code name next year," I was like, "All right." So then I started just kind of playing around with different code names, and Bad Andy kind of stuck. And I threw the quotes in it, to kind of hang out with Decoy and Carnage.
So you actually played a long time with the code name Sniper, huh? I don't think a lot of people.
Yeah, it was a good 2 or 3 years, but I mean, it feels longer because of the amount of time people spent on the news group and just garbage smack talk back and forth.
So when you started, is there anyone that we would recognize right now that started at the same time as you? Like you said, you guys started at the beginning when it opened. So is there anyone that started with you that may have been no at all? Huh? So when did the competitive scene of better players come through your door?
We never had anybody competitive come out of Grand Rapids other than me.
Okay.
we had a glimmer of hope, like early '99, and the Westland guys came up for a members night, and they destroyed us. I mean, it was terrible, and those guys were like, "We out."
Yeah.
They did the SpongeBob thing. All right, I'm gonna head out. And we never seen them again.
So when did you transit to Westland? Because we all know you from Westland, right?
Right.
As how I know you.
Yeah. So '98, we started hearing about there was a regional tournament, there was a national tournament, and all this stuff. And we were like, "All right, where's that at?" They're like, "It's in Westland." I'm like, "Where the hell's Westland?" You know, because this is back in the days. This is back before everybody's got a phone,
internet, and so on. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you actually had to go home, dial in. You know, it was very chaotic, and so they so we started trying to put together a team for that, and then we did sign-ups in '98. I think there was one other guy that signed up, and then I showed up for tryouts because they were like, "Yeah, it's like 3 nights. You gotta play all these games." And I was like, "Okay." And I showed up, and nobody else showed up. And I was like,
"Okay." I made the team.
Yeah, I was like, and they were like, "Oh, I guess we don't have a team this year." I was like, "Oh, that sucks." And then I remember going to different lock-ins and stuff like that. Clinton Township and Westland specifically. And then we went from there. Let's see. How did that work? Yeah, so we Westland, if I remember correctly, had a big management turnover. And so they sent our manager down there to cover. And then in return, he came up and he goes, "Hey, I got some guys that are going to come up and play at the next members night." Like, okay. And so these guys come up, and I just looked at them and I was like, "Those guys are assholes." And it was like 99 style and Exodus, and maybe Predator.
Right.
But anyways, we went in. They were like, "This is it, just you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so they grabbed like probably the 3 worst packs that I've ever seen at a center. And I had the most awesome pack. And I just annihilated these guys. And they were pissed because I was not good. And I did pick up one thing from 99 style, and that was how to shoot my thumb.
Okay.
Right.
Never would have thought of that. I was like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "How are you doing that?" But I was still killing them. And so those guys left. And they came back. Let's see. They came back a month later or so, and they brought like their whole squad, right? And they just, dude, they stomped me into the ground so bad. I remember I came out of a game and I was like, -55. Well, okay. I guess there's nowhere to go but up from here. And so, but and so I started going to like different lock-ins and stuff like that. I think at the time mixers were kind of a bigger deal, and so we took a trip down. There's one other guy that was playing at Zap Zone in town, and I was kind of floating back between the two of them, playing competitively, playing with the members that we had, floating back and forth between Zap Zone and Laser Quest, not really committing either way, because we kind of toyed with the idea of, well, maybe we can get a team and go to Ultra Zone Nationals or something, because Ultra Zone at the time had a massive scene.
Yeah.
And so we toyed around with that idea, but we could never really get a commitment either way. And then started getting more members at Grand Rapids, and we started toying with the idea of like, oh, well, regional tournaments in was it London in '99, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So we started kicking around that idea. Well, then the Westland guy, we made a trip down to Westland. I think we had 6 of us because the manager from Westland came up to Grand Rapids and transferred in. And then, let's see, how did that work? Yeah, he transferred in, so that kind of gave me an in with the Westland guys.
Yeah.
And so I hung out with him when he was up here, and then we'd go down and he'd see his family, and I'd go play laser tag. So But we took like 6 of us down to Westland, and those guys just got trashed. I mean, it was so bad. I mean, it was. We were driving home, and I was like, I don't know if you guys can come back from this. And it was another group of guys. So then it was, 3 guys signed up for tryouts, and that was it. So it was pretty bad. And I was like, man, I kind of want to play this regional thing and, try to get to a nationals or try these other tournaments. I was like, it's starting to be a lot of fun. And then, like I said, we started going to other mixers. And I remember I was supposed to go with the Grand Rapids guys to Fort Wayne for Ultra Zone. And a bunch of the Grand Rapids guys bailed out. They're like, I can't make it, whatever came up. And so at the same night, there was an Akron mixer. And so I just, on a whim, I was like, well, I want to go somewhere and play some tag. So I drove to Akron. It's like 5 hours away by myself. Show up to this Akron mixer. It's like, a bunch of guys you probably never heard of. Dodger, Heckler, Raven. Guys that never really played around at all. Anyway,
Yep.
Yeah. So all these guys were there. And so it was kind of cool because I got to hang out with them a little bit and play with different guys. And I was kind of okay. I can play with these guys. Like they're pretty. So
this would have been your first tournament, right?
Yeah. So I think it was the Akron mixer. Before that, I went to a Westland mixer, but I showed up like an hour late because we were supposed to have a lock-in in Grand Rapids.
So you did back and forth, yeah.
Yeah, the lock-in got canceled, so we were like, Westland's got a lock-in, let's go. So,
how early did you start feeling part of the Westland team identity? Obviously, you tried to make things happen at Grand Rapids and really work out initially.
So in '99, I started playing a lot more of the Westland guys.
Right.
Just going to lock-ins and just showing up and playing on a Saturday night or whatever and doing different things. In '99, there was a Michigan 3-man, which I think ran a year or two before that. And Force and Casper reached out to me, and they're like, hey, we need a third. You want to play with us? Okay.
Nice.
And so we went. I played with those guys, and total luck, we made it all the way into finals. And there wasn't anybody any good in finals. It was like Hutch Jerk and Carnage on one team, and then it was like Decoy, Excalibur, and Spotlight on another team. I mean, just
new up and coming players.
Who the hell were these?
Yeah, they were just trying to make their way. But no, it was like shock value to be there. I was like, oh my god, like, what are we doing? And that was the first time I ever seen Corwin, and I was like, what is this guy doing? Because that was the year he was in Phoenix, and that guy was that guy was a monster. And so, everybody's like, oh, dude, you got to get a team together. And so I went back to Grand Rapids and I said, hey, listen, if we don't have enough players to play, can I play at another center? Like, is that an option?
Yeah.
And they would go, I don't know. We never really had an issue like that.
Right.
And so they contacted the next closest physical center was Westland. And so they go, well, let's see. So they called Westland, and Westland's like, I don't know. So they called the area manager and went up through corporate. Everybody's like, yeah, if he doesn't have enough people to play, then yeah, we'll let him try out. And so I showed up for tryouts in Grand Rapids, and I was like, there was like 12 people on the list. Nobody showed up. And I was like, really? And then what it turned out is that the manager had this really nice, elaborate scam going, where he was, how was he doing it? He was selling memberships, ringing in member prices, paying the money back with the difference, charging people. Yeah, I mean, he was charging people full price and then taking the difference and paying off the memberships.
Oh wow!
And then it was boosting the members' numbers, so everybody in corporate's like, Grand Rapids should have all these members. What's going on?
But it's not true.
No, because I'd key into the members terminal and I was like,
who the fuck are these people?
Yeah, I'm like, who the hell are they at?
But the Westland.
But yeah, so then,
Did Westland have a full team when they tried out, and you took someone's spot, or were they just like limited?
So when I tried out in 2000, that was Westland's 4th year because they went to the 97 NAC. They hosted regionals in 98. They got second in regionals in 99. And so when I played in 2000 with them, they actually had enough people for a B team. So I was like, well, I'll be on a team. But it's funny because, like, I bet you it was a month before then I was like, man, I don't know if I'm good enough to make this team. Like, I got one shot to try to make this team. And it's like, if I don't, then I'm sitting on the bench for another year. And so I talked to the manager at Clinton Township and I put my name on their tryout list. So I was like, I could probably make Clinton Township's team. But I was like, I don't know if I can make Westland's team. Because Westland had some good players. I mean, at the time, they had some really good players. And so I was very nervous about trying out there. And I remember Exodus pulled me aside and he goes, you need to try out here. Don't go to Clinton Township. He goes, try out here. And I was like, okay. He goes, no, you'll make it. Trust me. I'm like, okay.
Nice.
We'll roll the dice on this one. It worked out. So.
Did you barely make it? Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
What place you got?
So that year, so if you remember Ramiro's podcast, we were just talking about playing Madison Heights. So Madison Heights had a lot of turmoil from '99.
Yep.
And so a lot of the Madison Heights players, the Madison team split. Half went to Clinton Township, half went to Westland.
Okay.
And Mad didn't have a team that year. I don't think they had a team. And so they so it was like Jerk, Odd, Peach, Odin, Hutch. I think that was it. And then you had all the Westland guys returning, minus one guy, I think. And then like Shadowhawk, Nova, Brain, Cool Ice, they all went to Clinton Township. And so we went into tryouts, and so 2 weeks before that, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks before that, myself, Jaster, Force, and Raider all went to Appleton for their one-on-one tournament.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
And so playing in their one-on-one tournament, like, it was the first time I ever played the Rockford guys. So it was like IRS, Beacon, Punisher, and then all the Appleton guys, of course, Antlin, Ginger Spice, Cougar. And so we had a video camera set up in there, and we were videotaping a lot of the one-on-ones. And I remember watching IRS the way he played, and I was like, oh, I think this guy's on to something here. And I just kept watching that video back, watching him play, and I was like, I think I got something. So when I went into tryouts, I started using the shoulder react. Just keeping guys down. And so I won the first 2 nights of tryouts, and I was like,
nice.
Sweet, I'm going to make the team. I'm like, I'm ecstatic. But then I started looking at like the guys that I wanted to play with, the guys that because I wanted to, I wanted to play, but I also wanted to play with the Westland guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't just want to go in there and take over. And so there were staples, guys that have been there for a long time.
Yes.
That were on the cusp of not making it. And so, it was kind of like, okay. And there was a lot of guys that were, crushing newbies, just going after the easy points.
Just to make the team,
Just to make the team. And so that third night, I was like, okay, I'm going to go after this guy, and I'm going to go after this guy.
To shut him down, yeah.
And then I'm going to turn my back to these guys, and we're going to get the team we should have.
Did it work out?
So it worked out. And so it was like, the guys who probably shouldn't have made it didn't make it, and then the guys who should have made it, I think
actually did. Yep.
Yeah.
And how receptive was the Westland core? At this point, you kind of have like established team from 4 years, and they're pretty good, right? So how receptive were you?
So Westland was on their way up at that time, because in '97 they were not good.
Right.
And I only know that historically, looking at stats and just talking to different people. They're like, "Oh yeah, Westland, ha ha." And then in '98 they hosted regionals, but they got third behind Rockford and Madison Heights. I mean, Rockford and Madison Heights were above them.
Yes.
Okay.
And so in '99, they started kind of getting their poop in a group, and they were a little, they were more cohesive as a group, and so and that's when I started kind of hanging around with them in '99.
Right.
And so they but Brampton won that regional, and so then that was the first year they made playoffs in NEC. So they were on their way up.
Yep.
So it was they were very receptive. There were some rips in the team, which looking at the agenda, I think we'll get to some of the dynamics later.
Oh, definitely.
But
yes.
It's just I don't know how to say it. Different classifications of players, I guess you'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Maybe just classifications of people.
Yeah.
It's just how it was.
Different styles.
Okay.
But I think, it's just different lifestyles and stuff.
Yeah.
So logically, that I want to talk about regionals and NEC because they're obviously your first experience with tournaments. But there's also a big tournament that I want to talk about that year, which is the Brampton 2-man, which at the time, or it has been a staple. Like it was a decade, and it was a big tournament. And I think we might have show and tell for you there. So chronologically, the Brampton 2-man happened between the regionals and NEC, right?
Yeah, I think that was in. I think it was in May that year, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so let's. All right, fine. Bring it in.
I don't even know why I bothered to try to guess the date. It actually has it on here.
Nice. Does it say your code name there? I can't really.
0605.
Yep. So
0605 2000.
June 5th, unless you guys did it. I think it was June.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously the Brampton 2-man was a very stacked tournament because there was already a lot of talent in the GTA, like you mentioned, Corwin, Decoy, all of these guys, and I felt like a lot of Americans traveled to that tournament, and basically you're this kid from Grand Rapids, who did have enough flair, to even field the team, and then very, very quickly you, as you said, you're one of the top performers on a very up and coming team, respected team. And a Brampton 2-man is very, very close to a singles tournament, right? There's only 2 players on the team, so you win that tournament. So how was that experience for you? It was your first win.
That tournament was a blur. It was complete chaos. And tournaments back in those days, formats were at a premium. And so I remember it was open maze. I don't remember how they did pack sets. I remember it was just chaos all night long. And so Blair did his best to run the tournament, but I think that was his first tournament.
Right.
I think they I want to say Force ran a 2-man the year before, or 6 months before that in Westland. And that was a cluster. And so but that whole tournament was such a blur. It was just jockeying of settings and stuff all night long, missing scores and all this stuff. But there were a lot of good players there, and Solo and Dark Angel flew in to play that tournament.
Wow.
And then all the Rochester guys were there. There were some Akron guys there. There were, the Westland guys were there. Some Clinton Township guys, Oshawa guys were there. Ottawa guys were there. It was people from all over the place that were there. And so I don't even know how we made it into semifinals.
Who was your partner?
Monoxide.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know who that is.
First year. Yeah. That was his first year as well. That was his first year playing. And so, it's just 2 unproven guys. We got nothing to lose. And
Right.
I remember in the finals, it was Malifestra from Rochester, and his partner was Cash from London.
What? Okay.
Right? Yeah, completely random.
How?
And so, what happened is Cash was he was treading water the whole night. That's all he was doing, just running around. And then Malifestra would just find the weakest player and just beat the shit out of them. And then Dark Angel and Solo are just good enough to just make it. And then Monoxide and I just slid into the wire and made it, and we got into finals. And Monoxide went after Malifestra and Cash, and I went after Solo and Dark Angel, and we just happened to squeak it out. And I don't remember what the margin of victory was, but it was pretty close. And I remember we were just like, "Holy shit, we pulled it off!" Like, wow. And so it was shocking.
Yeah, I can imagine. You strike me as someone that's pretty stoic, like you're level-headed. But how I don't know you that much on a personal level, but that's how you strike me. But this obviously is your first tournament win. So how rewarding was that? Like, how emotional were you after winning that tournament?
It was really rewarding. You know, it kind of validated us that, you know, like, it validated me a little bit. Like, I was like, okay, like I can hang with the rest of the Westland guys. Like, tryouts wasn't just a fluke.
Right.
Like, I can be somebody that contributes to this team.
Yep.
And so that was a big weight off my shoulders in a way, because I felt like I needed to try to prove myself all the time. Because even when we got to regionals, like the first regional game we played, like I got like third place or something. I think Virus got first and Dodger got second. And I remember Jerk turned around looking at me going, "Ha, you didn't get first place." And I was like,
my first regional.
I was like, yeah, my first one. I'm gonna do it. So, but no, it was very rewarding, especially, you know, like Monoxide. You know, I think he only played like 3 months before tryouts. He was super new. But you know, it was very rewarding.
Excellent. I believe regionals that year were in Mississauga, if I remember correctly.
In 2000, they were in Akron.
Oh yeah, it was 2001. Sorry. Well, how did regionals go for Westland that year, and for you personally?
Regionals were very good. We won regionals. That was Westland's first regional win. We were put in the East that year. Where was North Regionals? Was that Rochester that year?
Rochester.
Yeah. And so, you know, so it was going into that regional. They, like, Rockford was like the main focus of Westland. They were like, "Oh, Rockford," you know. It's like every year we have a target, and that's
right.
You know, Brampton in '99. Those guys were like, "Oh, we got to beat Brampton," and then in 2000, "Oh, we got to beat Rockford," you know. And it was like, I don't even remember who the third place team was in that final. I think it was Akron B.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because I think that was the year Akron's best players dropped down to the B team.
All right. Okay.
And so I think it was Akron B in finals, but all I remember is Rockford, because that was our focus. And so, but going in, even playing Rockford in playoff and prelims, it was just like, you know, we beat them, and it was just like, oh, like, we can do this. And like it was like a momentum, like a game changer for the whole squad. Like the whole team was like, you know, I think we can do it. Like, we're gonna get over the hump. You know? And so when we pulled off that regional win, it was great. I remember just sitting down afterwards, like we had a nice steak dinner that night. I think it was Outback or something we went to, and just sitting there having a good dinner, and just everybody bullshitting and having a good time. And
the feeling of accomplishment, right? So
right, yep.
Yeah. And obviously, you qualified for NACs that year. Yep. I believe NACs was in Toronto East.
You are correct.
Okay, perfect. And how did it go there for you? First show, right, on the Big Bets?
Yeah, so we continued to play tournaments during that summer. You know, we had SummerSlam we went to. We ran the Michigan 3-man. There was something else we played too. But anyways, I mean, we kept playing and, you know, branching out, going different places and stuff. And I remember going into NAC, like the focus was off of Rockford. Like, they're gone now. Like, they're behind us. Okay, now who's the new target now? And it was, the whole target that whole time was Phoenix. Like, you know, those guys they're so arrogant and blah, blah, blah. You know, the whole team kind of molded in that direction. And so, you know, we get into semifinals, and we have Akron B and Phoenix in our semifinals. And Toronto East is such a hard maze to play.
Yes,
yep.
it's so tight. It's is that center still open?
I believe so. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Such a bad maze. Anyways, and that it was so tight. And I remember because Westland was very much a tower. We were very much a tower team, and so we talked to Canton or Akron at the time. We said, "Hey, let's take the Phoenix guys to the tower. Let's just see what we can do." And so I want to say we were winning that triple quest going into like the second game or the third game. One of them, we were up, I think, and the Canton guys had a problem with their pack wouldn't key in or something, and so they all lagged at the airlock, and then it just drug the whole game to the floor.
To the floor, yeah.
Phoenix slaughtered us. But I remember playing in the tower with Hocus Pocus, like this far away, like the whole time, and him and I were first and second every game. Like it was just ridiculous because like we were playing two of the better packs, and whoever got the tag, the other one got to tag the tower.
Yeah.
Like that's how it was. And so it was another validating moment. Like, okay, hey, we can still hang with these guys. Like we're climbing the ladder, we're getting better. And so we ended up, we lost to Phoenix. They went on to finals and won their second NAC. And we went to consoles. And I remember there was a good chunk of the team that were kind of dejected. Like they thought, oh, we should be in finals. We should have beat Phoenix. And it's like, I'm just happy to be here, man. Like this is awesome.
Yeah.
And so it was Diluvian. He rallied us all up. And he was like, hey, listen, let's win this consolation. Let's pull something out of this. It was like, okay. And I think Brampton was in there with us, and we won the consolation. So I don't remember who the third team was. So
I don't remember. I'm sure somebody will correct
there's
us
a wiki somewhere for all this.
Yeah, that's it. Still pretty successful first year of
It was I mean we were ecstatic. I remember driving home and we were all just like, it was great, and it's like, oh, I can't wait till next year. And we got a little bit better the following year.
And then 2001. Oh, I think Phoenix, you want to talk about this one?
Yep. So in 2001, there's the tournament called VDM in Charlotte, right? It brought like the Southeast, everyone. So a lot of it was a big turnout. There's a lot of talent that showed up and so on. And I guess you won it, like how you pointed. So how was that? How'd you do individually? What was your team and so on?
So that team was myself, Monoxide, Dodger, Predator, Diluvian, Exodus, and 99 Style.
Nice.
So it was full Westland squad.
Homegrown.
Yeah, total homegrown. And that was the year where, everybody stacked that year. It was ridiculous. And so, like, I remember Force had a squad that he made. JJ UCF brought a squad in. The Rochester guys had a squad. San Antonio had a squad they put together with NRH. The Houston team was there. The Austin team was there. It was like
that's
the who.
That's a lot
outside
of
NAC.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. Brampton was there. There was a lot of good teams, and it was funny because the year before in 2000 we went to VDM, and that was a shit show. That was every game was 15 minutes long.
Wow.
Yeah, and so there was no pack rotation. Like literally, they just look at the schedule and go. And we were Westland B at the time, and it was like me, Exodus, Force, Casper, 99 Style, and Dark Dragon. It was just a weird ass team.
Yeah.
And so, we weren't very good. But the first game we played, all of us got our cards pulled except for Dark Dragon. And I think we were playing Phoenix. And I remember we came out of the game and we're looking at the scores, and Phoenix they kicked their face in. It was terrible. And I'm like, okay, what happened? I got my card pulled. We're all talking, and then on the PA system, the manager's like, Westland 2 in my office right now.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and so they pull us into the office, and he goes, "There's only one of you that didn't get your card pulled. But what really pisses me off somebody gave them the wrong code name. And I was like, what? So here 99 Style is playing point blank with Zebra, and he's cupping and doing his dirty shit like normal. And they go, that's a warning. What's your code name? And he goes, Zebra. And Zebra goes, what the hell? And he gets all pissed off. which in hindsight is actually pretty genius.
Hilarious. That's so James.
Yeah, and so James over there playing 4D chess. But so and then that whole tournament in 2000 was like, we walk in the airlock, we'd be standing there, and they go, Westland, what pack set do you want? Like, then Exodus looks at me and he goes, C? What? Yeah, C? And like every game, C, like, and then we got into like playoffs, and we got into playing. I forgot who we played. Well, I know who we played. We played San Antonio, and Enemy and Poncho just dropped $1,000 a piece on us. I mean, they slaughtered us. It was horrible.
Wow.
Those guys just beat the crap out of us. And so, going into VDM 2001, I was like, listen, I don't mind going to play that tournament. Like, big team games outside of regionals or NAC sounds fun. I said, but I don't want to play that format anymore. I was like, there's no pack rotation. Like, it's chaos.
That's why. Yeah, it's weird.
And so, the manager at the time was Andar, and he was pretty heavily involved with like the tournament scene. And so he posted up a format of what he wanted to do, and I was like, I shit all over it. I was like, no, there's no way. And so it caused this big argument between all of us on the news group, and people can go back and Google it and find all this stuff. But we go back and forth, and finally, he was like, well, why don't you make up something? And I was like, okay. And so I made him a format, and he was like, oh, okay, I guess this works. And so then I was like, well, shit, we got to go to this thing now. Like, I can't shit all over the format.
Yeah.
And so we all piled in the cars and we went down and played. And I mean, that was a brutal format because it was 8-minute prelim games. You got 3 prelim games, full pack rotation. And then from the prelims, you got seeded into a bracket. And the brackets were all triple and double quests. So as you got all the 3-team games were 8-minute, 5-second downtime. And then when you got to your semifinals, double quest games, they were 10-minute, 3-second downtime.
Okay.
And then the finals were back-to-back 15-minute frantics.
Wow, that's a lot of games.
It was really cool. It was like a gauntlet.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, we had to climb through the Houston team. We had to climb through the Austin team. We had to climb through. Who else did we play?
Who'd you meet in finals?
We played San Antonio in finals.
Okay.
So it was Enemy, Dark Angel, Slaughter, Liquid was really good at that time.
Yeah,
and it was a pretty stacked team. And wow, I remember just looking over. Like I seen some of my guys like, whoo, we're out of gas. Like man, and we're just clawing and scratching, and we won by like 17 points.
Wow.
It was something ridiculous like that. But what's funny is I remember there was a guy that was on Houston's team, Disco Stu. I remember telling Ramiro this story not too long ago. When we were playing, and he goes, he was pretty active on the news group.
Yes, he was.
Active is a very polite way of putting it. And so he goes, him and I are playing off to the left of the airlock. And as we're playing, like I'm ramping it up on him, and I'm starting to get a groove on him, and I'm kicking his ass pretty good. And he's trying to match me, and he smacks his gun to the wall, and his pack goes out, just goes down. And the second it goes down, I'm like, Marshall. I'm just screaming, Marshall. Marshall's come rushing in, right?
Yeah, I feel like I heard this story. I heard this story, yeah.
This on Lucian's podcast, and I go, they go, what's going on? And I go, his pack went down. Fix his pack. And so they quick get his pack up. He's, oh man, thanks. I go, yeah, not a problem. And I just
keep rapping him.
I stomped him. And so he comes out of the game, and I remember Columbo's like, what was Andy calling the marshal on you for? And so he's like, "Oh no, Andy was being really cool, man. He really helped me out. My pack went out. He got my pack up." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And I remember Ramiro had that little thought, like,
Wait a second.
yeah. But no, that was another moment where it was kind of validating for the team, I guess. Where it was kind of like, wow, like we took a home team and we clawed through that tournament. We won. It was funny because we ended up meeting San Antonio in finals that year at NAC.
Okay, wait, you're jumping ahead in time. So
I had to, yeah.
So 2001 regionals were in Mississauga that year, and I think if I remember correctly, you guys were down Force because Force played on Brampton, at least for.
Yeah, there was some
correctly?
turmoil. There was some turmoil on the backside of NAC 2000 with Force. I don't remember all the ins and outs of everything. It gets lost. I think it's 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so he decided that he was going to go play for Brampton. He was going to go to school up there or something. I don't know. There's some conflicting reports and stories, but he went and played for Brampton, and that felt like a big slight against us because obviously with them back in our region, I mean that's the team, right? Like that's the team we got to work.
That's the target.
And then one of the guys that helped get us to where we were joined them, and so we kind of took it personally. It's like you could have went to any other team. It's like, but anyways, yeah. So he played for Brampton that year, and we went to Mississauga, and it was we were playing pretty good, but something happened in finals. There were two things that happened in finals that year because Brampton won, and Rockford got third. So we had Brampton and Rockford, like two of our biggest regional rivals, in the same finals with us. And so two things happened. One, Mississauga, everybody fights for the Crow's Nest. That's just what happens, right? Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, but I play up there once in a while. And so, so I bust my ass to get through that damn Crow's Nest every game. Finally get control of it. I remember I popped up and I looked and it was just a wall of Brampton players. And I went, oh, goodness. Like, they flipped the script on us. And I was like, man. And so that was a moment where I was like, oh yeah, they outplayed us on that. Because we were playing from behind the whole finals. And then the other thing that happened, something happened with 99 Style, and he only scored 3 points.
Oh wow!
What? Okay.
Yeah, three points, not 300, not 30, 3. And I remember Exodus goes. He looks at the score amount and he goes, "Well, my score doesn't."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, what happened?" And there are guys that were playing right next to him. How you doing? Yeah. How you doing? Yeah. What's that mean? It's like, so there was always a little something in the back of my mind, like, hey, what happened there? So.
But did you guys lose by a lot?
Yeah, that's it.
I don't remember how much we lost by, but obviously it was enough where we were pretty frustrated coming out of that region.
Okay.
Pretty frustrated is kind of an understatement, honestly. But we left there. We were pretty sour that whole summer, and then we lost going. So after that, going into NAC, we lost Predator. Something happened. He couldn't go to NAC, but him and I were like 1 and 2 in the region that year.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. I remember stats from NAC 2001. I think you guys got first and second overall.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty rare for two teammates to do that. In a big tournament like that. So I mean, Predator was really rolling that year, and so he couldn't make it to NAC, and then obviously Force was gone too. He didn't even go to NAC that year, I don't think. And so
I don't think so.
Yeah, and so we picked up Ringmaster, and that was his first year. I think he was like 11th or 12th in tryouts, and so he was just next on the list. And so we picked him up, and we went to Colorado Springs, and we didn't know what to expect. Honestly, we had a chip on our shoulder. We were kind of upset, but we didn't know what to do with it.
So how did it go in Colorado Springs? What rank did you get? How did it go for you individually?
Individually, I played all right. I mean, there's no stats from it, so I can't really tell either way. I mean, I can remember I won a couple of specific games, but I remember we were floundering pretty good through prelims. It was to the point where we had one prelim game left on Sunday morning against Denver and Knoxville, if I remember correctly. And we had to win that game against Denver in order to make playoffs.
Ouch.
Like, yeah, I mean, it was razor thin. And I remember we were in Brampton's room Saturday night having a couple drinks, bullshit with those guys. And Phoenix guys were in there with us. I think Nate was chasing some girl, and I mean, everybody's having a good time, right? And so, and I remember a great one was sitting down. He was looking at the schedule. And he goes, "Dude, if you guys beat them, you guys are in playoffs. You guys got this." And I was like, "Nah, man. I mean, it's Denver. Like Denver's hot on favorite to win this year. Like corporate hooked them up, man. They put NAC in their backyard. Like that was the shtick, right?
Yeah.
And so." After corporate couldn't hook them up with locations anymore, they got cornered down. But and so, and so I was like, we were looking at that, and I was like, yeah, we could pull it off, like we got it. And so we kind of started to believe a little bit. We went and played them, and we decided last minute, like, let's not take them to the tower, let's spread it on the floor. And so we spread out on the floor, and we beat them by like a couple of points. It was like, oh wow,
nice,
we won, like we got it. But I remember one thing specifically happened in that game, and that was I was playing in front of the airlock, and I went way back like this with my laser, and I clocked Jerk right in the mouth. I drove his teeth through his bottom lip.
Ow.
Like that. And I remember I was like, "Oh, Jay, you all right?" And he cracked his head like this, and he turned, and he just kept walking. And he goes, "Keep playing." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I come by the airlock a couple minutes later, and the marshal had him there, blood all down his front. And they were going to stop the game. And he goes, no, I can keep playing. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And luckily he did, because we won. But and so I felt bad about that. But I think he ended up getting a lip piercing or something, anyways. So fine. But so we made it in the playoffs, and we played Brampton and Canton in playoffs. And somehow we were able to make it out of that playoff and make it in the finals. Like, I think we were like the 8th seed or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we went into finals against Denver and San Antonio. And like, I remember looking at San Antonio. It was so funny. He goes, enemy looks at me, he goes, "What do you want to do?" And I go, "Well, we beat Denver on the floor last time. Let's take him to the floor." And he goes, "Okay." And so we took him to the floor, and Denver punched us in the face so hard. It was like, I think they blew us out by $1,000 or something close to it. It was so bad. And we were just like, literally, we're
what happened?
Yeah, we're just, I mean, we're shell shocked because I mean, it feels like a total fluke we got there, right?
Yeah.
And then, here we are playing the team that's the odds-on favorite to win, and we're playing San Antonio, who we just played in February. And it's like, okay, well, we got nothing to lose now. Let's take him to the tower. And so we took him to the tower, and we beat the shit out of them both times in the tower. But just not enough. I think we lost, when it was 153 points we lost by.
Oh, wow. You guys got second?
Yeah, so we ended up in second, San Antonio in third, and Denver with the win. But it was like Ramiro was talking about how, the lobby's chanting Houston. We were coming out of that last game, and the lobby was chanting Westland. And it was like,
yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
Like, you put your pack down, you look over. I remember Dodger put his pack down next to me, and he goes, "Did we do it? You kidding me? Did we really do it?" I'm like, "I don't know, man." Like, and so we walked out, and I remember Hutch and I are standing on the pool table trying to see the score monitor. It was just like, it was crazy. And it was like, I was like, "Did we get it? Did we get it?" And Hutch is like, "Nah, we just." I was like, "Oh."
When it's that close, it's hard to see on top of that. Calculate everything together. You're like, you feel the momentum, but it's just so close,
I mean, even when Denver was cheering, they were kind of like, maybe. Like,
yeah.
But that was pretty good. And then was shortly after that, like, an Irishman started talking to me. That guy.
Irishman. He was crazy. Jesus.
Yeah, he was something else.
We're actually going to get there because in 2002, shortly, there is a WLC that have actually, Phoenix, you want to take that one?
I don't mind. So we're going to talk about your WLC career. Was that 2002 your first WLC?
Yeah. I don't think that was the first WLC ever.
That you played.
Yeah, it was the first one I played. And I remember Malice put it together and was really the spearhead on the World Challenge side. And so they bundled it up with the Vegas tournament.
Yeah, so 2002 was supposed to be in Vegas. So from what I heard, you were supposed to play on the USA team, but you ended up actually playing with Tulsa, with Irishmen, as you were saying.
Yeah. So what happened is I was supposed to play with Jerk, Ramiro, Capri Sun, IRS, all those guys, Hocus Pocus, 007.
Yep.
I don't know that team.
Yeah.
And then I had some work conflicts and couldn't make it. And I was like, hey, I can't go. And so Jerk filled the spot. He was like, no big deal, but I already had my name on the shirt and everything. And so then I remember Irishman goes, hey, you're not going to Vegas? And I said, no. He goes, if I pay for you, will you go? I was like, well, yeah, obviously. If you pay for me, I'll go. He's like, you know anybody else that wants to go? I was like, let me ask around. So I asked Deluvian if he wanted to go. So Irishman paid for both of us to fly to Vegas, stay, I think, in the Stratosphere. High roller, right?
Yeah.
We stayed there in 2011.
It's not that great.
No, it wasn't that great in 2002 either. But yeah, so I mean, he flew us out. I mean, incredibly nice guy, great gesture on his part. And then we played with Irishman, Irishman, Hollow Point. And it was like Malice, Revnock, Walker Bow, Gravedigger.
And you guys actually did pretty decent, no?
Yeah, actually, I think we're the only team that beat Team USA.
Oh, wow.
We played in the prelims and we beat them. Malice and I worked on a format for that. And so because the two teams that came from Europe at the time, I think it was England.
Yes.
It was a team from the Netherlands and a team from England.
Yes, correct.
Yep. And so, but they didn't do a lot of triple quest stuff. They did more double quest.
Double quest, yeah. They're strong on double quest.
Right. They were more in the two-team stuff. So Malice and I put together a format where it was you played three-team games and then two two-team games. So you played 5 prelim games.
Yep.
And then that way it kind of bridged the gap. And then we played Team USA in one of the prelim games and we beat them.
Nice.
And that was the closest we got to beating them the rest of the weekend. Because we got into finals and they flipped the switch and we didn't have enough to take on that squad. That was a pretty good squad. But we ended up in second place. But I remember the England guys and the Netherlands guys that came over, they were not good. I mean, obviously things have changed since then. But like individually, like my score individually was beating their entire team score.
Oh wow!
Wow!
It was bad. It was bad.
Bad Andy was bad.
Yeah, I mean it was not. I mean, and I mean there were other players that were doing the same thing that I was, but I remember I had 700 some odd points, and their team score was 700 points, and I was like, ooh, like
wow.
Yikes. Yeah. So, but they at the time they weren't at the level we were.
All right. So 2001, obviously very successful year for you. Kind of like a comeback story there at NEC. 2002, you also get to play WLC. So you're kind of riding on like a few years of success there. Your first few years of competitive as well.
Yeah, it was definitely an upward trend.
Yeah, definitely. And then 2002 rolls around, and then Grand Rapids has, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only team that ever came out of Grand Rapids for regionals was the 2002s.
So the previous 2 years, Grand Rapids actually had a team that went to regionals in 2000 and 2001, but they didn't form the team until like a month before regionals. And it was just a hodgepodge of people going, yeah, let's go. And I was like, well, where was this before I committed to Westland? Like,
yeah,
I would roll with you guys. Like, it would have been fine. Like, you know, the more local people I can play with, the better off it is, in my opinion. You know? And so I was happy that they went, but both, because like 2001, like it was like a mixed team, because it was the guys who didn't make the Westland roster were on that Grand Rapids team. Just kind of filling in spots. And so it was like the 11th, 12th, 13th place guys from the Westland tryouts played on the Grand Rapids team. And so 2002 rolled around, they actually had like I wasn't, you know, all my weekends I was on the road going to tournaments and stuff. And so there was actually some players that were starting to play at the Grand Rapids Center. And then when I rolled into town, I was like, oh, these guys are actually playing? Like, sweet. And they were decent guys. Like, they were people you could actually talk to and hang out with.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I told the Westland guys, I go, hey, if these guys are serious and they want to do a tryout, I got to play with them. Like, you know, they're the local guys. Like, that's all I got. And so they were like, no, we get it. So there was a couple guys on the team that were not happy that I wasn't coming back.
Right.
And that caused some turmoil between a lot of us. You know, but it, you know, what was I supposed to do? You know, I made a commitment to Westland because I didn't have any players up in the center.
Yeah. But if you had, you know.
Right. And so now they legitimately have enough people for an actual tryout, and they actually have people that want to play, like, rather than the last minute fill-ins. Like I gotta have, this is my home team. This is my home center.
Yep.
And so I, you know, we went, played in Grand Rapids, and the Westland guys, there are probably 3 or 4 guys on the Westland team that were really not happy with it. And so, you know, and they were, you know, it didn't help that there were some guys on the news group who were like, oh, well, he was your best player, and now you guys aren't worth a shit without him. And a lot of people talking a lot of shit. And so, you know,
that was the forum, right? That was all about the forum. It was trash talking, and you know.
Oh my god, those guys just, they fed off that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we had enough guys in Grand Rapids, and I remember taking the team. We went to the Joust in Toronto East.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Before it was rebranded as Winter Slam.
Yep.
And so,
wait, just 1 second. I'm listening to all this. I can't believe there were so many tournaments in Toronto. It's insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, all tournaments talk about Brampton 2-man, Joust, SummerSlam, Winter Slam, and the regionals, WLC. It's crazy.
Those were the days.
You also had, I remember Robin ran like an IEG Ironman tournament.
Yeah, I remember that.
Saga. London had a couple of 3-mans and 4-mans. Gladiator tournament that Alex beat me in.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I mean, GTA was crazy active at the time. But, you know, you had, what, 5 centers within an hour drive or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So it wasn't difficult to get players, and then, you know, everybody else, it was an easy drive, relatively speaking. But, yeah, because I played every one of my tournaments. It was ridiculous amount. But, yeah, I remember the Grand Rapids guys, like, man, it was, like, I loved playing with the Westland guys, but there was always, like, 1 or 2 guys who, like, hey, let's be here at 4 o'clock so we can leave. And it's 5 o'clock and you're still not here. You know, it's like, it's always crap like that. Like, you know, like the Grand Rapids guys were like, they were on it all the time. Like, hey, let's be here at 2 o'clock so we can leave. And I get there at 1:30 and they're already there waiting for me. And I'm like, sweet.
Nice.
You know, like, I mean, they were organized. They had all their stuff. I mean, they didn't have enough time. They just didn't have enough time to get good. And so, but they had the dedication for it. And then, so we had our tryout. We went to the Joust. We got like 12th place. We didn't do very good, but it was a learning experience. And I was like, okay, we can grow from this. And then a month before regionals, they cut our knees out and they closed the center.
Wow.
Yeah. And so my wife now is actually the manager at the center at the time.
Oh, well.
And so I remember all of us sitting on the floor in the lobby. It's like Sunday night for practice. And we're all sitting there, and they're like, "Yeah, they're going to close the center tomorrow." And then we're like, "Really?" We're like, "Oh man, we're like 20 some days from regionals. Like, what are we going to do?" And she goes, "So what do you guys want to do?" And I go, "We're going to run practice today like we do every day, and we're going to go to regionals." And everybody's like, "Okay, let's do it." And then we had 10. I think we had 10 in the tryout list, but that 10th guy just disappeared after tryouts, and he wasn't going to come back. So we had 9. And then when we got to regionals, we had 8.
Wow.
So regionals was in Cleveland at Fairview Park. But I remember like going down for a walk, and the Grand Rapids guys just scouting out the area. Like, okay, let's stay at that hotel. Let's go over there. Do this. You know, like we were planning it all out. And then they closed the center, and so we went to regionals. We got there with 8 guys. We played with a 20% deduction for the first game.
Oh, shit.
And yeah, I was like,
That
you know,
sucks.
we can't. Yeah, like what are we gonna do? You know? And then because it's not like I can call the center and get another Grand Rapids guy, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
and Steve Garrett was running the. He was our area manager for a while, and so I had a good rapport with him. And I go, "Hey, what am I supposed to do here, Steve?" And he goes, "You got to come up with a Grand Rapids guy." And the way he said it was kind of weird. And Aunt Lou from Appleton was standing there, and she goes, "Andy, come here." So
I'll play with you.
yeah, right. He goes, "We brought a guy. He bought a membership last week. He's just here to hang out. Just tell him he's from Grand Rapids." I said, "Okay." And he wasn't, he wasn't any good. He was just there to hang out and party. And so I was like, "Hey, Steve, we got a guy. He came down from Grand Rapids." Steve's like, "Okay." Like,
No questions asked.
Like, yeah, he's like, he knew,
Yeah.
Everybody's cool with it. Yeah. Canton, Akron, Centerville, everybody was cool with it. They understood the circumstances. And so we went in. We got a couple of seconds. I don't think we won a game. We were close, like 1 or 2 games. We were pretty close to winning a game. We got like 12th place. I mean, it's like we didn't have the 20% the first game, and we would have had a 9th player. Maybe
could have been different.
Maybe in the playoffs, maybe.
Yeah.
And then after regional, Westland won that regional pretty handedly.
Right.
And so I played one more tournament with a Grand Rapids player, and that was the Brampton 2-man shortly after that in July that year. And that was the last time I played with a Grand Rapids player. So then I just focused right back on Westland. I was like, okay, let's get these guys an NAC win. Let's, I'll be there next year to play with them and go from there.
So I don't know if you've had a chance to watch it, but there's this documentary about Michael Jordan that's called The Last Dance on Netflix.
I know of it. I haven't watched it yet. But I
so please watch it. It's amazing. It's really cool. I'm not even a basketball fan, and I was like, holy shit. So at some point, Michael Jordan decided he was going to play baseball. And he took a year off. And then he came back, and he was like, okay, no more fucking around, and dominated for another 2 years. This is your baseball year. You went off to baseball, and you're like, no more fucking around. You come back in 2003, and you smashed the regionals at Clinton Township.
Yeah, that was a good year. That was a fun year. 2003 should have been the year that Westland won. Right. It honestly should have been. That was honestly the best chance we ever had. I mean, realistically looking at things, we had probably the strongest team on paper of the Westland, of all the Westland teams. That was probably the strongest
of the entire season. Even compared to other teams, the talent on that team was amazing.
And so, it lucked out that regionals was in Clinton Township. It was only 2 miles from Hutch's house. So we all just stayed at Micah's place.
Nice.
And so it was a lot of fun there. I mean, it had a great time, big barbecue, just hanging out, playing. And I think we lost a game. I think we lost the first game in regionals. The first game we played was against Brampton. Brampton already had a game or 2 in hand at that point. They already had a game or 2 in. And so we kind of oh, what the hell? And they beat us a couple hundred points, and we were like, And then we just flipped the switch after that. It was okay, it's go time. So I think you guys were in finals with us, weren't you?
Yes, it was our best year, basically.
I wasn't on the team.
No, you were. You were.
You were on the team. You were.
Was it 2003? Oh, it was 2003. Yeah. You're right, actually.
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah, on my podcast, I said it was the most meaningful year.
I was 13. Like, what the fuck? Give me a break, man. Like, fuck.
I'll be honest with you. You at 13, the stats that I seen, it shows that you were only 13.
I know.
Yeah, true.
I was like, damn, he played back then? And I was like,
yeah. No one knew me. Like, I was just a little kid trying to get around. But yeah, I was young, so.
But no, that was a really intense regional. But it was a lot of fun too. I mean, because it felt like regionally, like we didn't have like enemy rivals anymore. You know, like we didn't have rivals that we hated. There were people that were like, okay, Brampton's a top tier team. Appleton's a top tier team. Rockford's a top tier team. Montreal's coming up. Like, you know, like, okay, these are just, you know, and we've played enough years at this point where we've played with so many people and against so many people in so many different places that the enemy lines were being blurred.
Yes.
You know, and so it was a different feeling than it was in the previous regionals where it was like, oh, we got to get that team right there. You know, it's like, and so we won that regional pretty handedly.
Yeah, I don't think you guys dropped the game in the finals, if I remember correctly. I think you won all three.
Yeah. I think we started like the worst set, and then we steamrolled after that.
Yeah, you smashed. And you move on to NAC. And how did you guys do at NAC that year?
NAC 2003. That was in NRH, and so like I said, it felt like that should have been our year. And the reason I say that is because the last time NAC was in NRH. Too many letters. The last time it was there was in '99. That was Westland's first playoff appearance, and so and Westland felt like they got screwed over there. There was all I heard was bits and pieces of different stories, and it's all people's memory of what happened at that time. Right? And so there was something that happened in playoffs. I think it was Rockford and Denver was in their playoff with them. And they felt like they got screwed somehow out of at least a consolation placing or something. And so making the return to NRH, like, even though I wasn't on the team in '99, it felt like, okay, we're gonna rectify this situation. We're gonna redeem ourselves, and we're gonna pull it off from where it kind of started at, you know. And so we got to finals. Let's see. I don't remember who we played in playoffs. You probably got the stats for that somewhere. But anyways, I think I sent them to you, as a matter of fact. But but I remember, like, we got to finals, and it was Lincoln and Denver, you know, and obviously Denver beat us in 2001, and Denver repeated it in 2002. And so, you know, in Westland in 2002, they had a first seed and they lost, and so they were very upset at that, and we were very focused. We got into that first game, and we blew our wad. We won the first game by a couple 700-800 points, and then it was just downhill from there. We couldn't catch a break. Like, no matter what we did, everything felt off. Everybody felt out of position. Nothing went our way at all, and Denver just smoked us. It was like we were just shell shocked, and because that was like the final game, they shut the score monitor off, and so we all came out and the score monitor's off, and we're all like, none of us played that well. Like, I think Exodus and Predator had some good games. I think I had a good game in finals, and then I had two terrible games. But I remember we came out, the score monitor's off, and everybody's like, "Oh, there's all these conspiracy theories going on."
Yeah, Denver download.
You know, the Denver download, and then they turn the score monitor on after they verified Denver won, and so it was a bunch of turmoil. But you know, we were like, I remember, I think Clutch that year set up the hotels and stuff for NAC, and kind of planned everybody to be at the same hotel and everything like that. And we were very cordial with everybody, and we were very involved with the tournament scene overall.
Yes.
And so, we ended up getting second place, and Denver won, and Denver was really good. I mean, nothing against those guys. It was 100% on us that we didn't perform when we should have. It was just an emotional. Oh, it was gone, and we didn't have anything after that. And so, they awarded us the ZAP award for sportsmanship.
Westland won the ZAP award.
Yeah, which is the weirdest thing. We're all like I remember Monoxide was standing next to me. It was me, Monoxide, and Diluvian. And Sue Miller goes, this team had one of the most terrible track records, and they were some of the loudest and noisiest players. And I mean, just like that. And I remember Monoxide and Diluvian looked over at me, and I was like, uh-oh. and he goes, and Monoxide said something like, are you fucking kidding me? Something like that. And Diluvian smacks him. He goes, show some damn respect. What are you doing? And so, so Diluvian went up and got the ZAP award. I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. But we were, and then they awarded the second, third, and first place trophies and checks. And I remember we were so bummed out.
Yes.
And I remember Predator drove his car down. The rest of us flew. Did we fly that year? No, we drove that year. We drove minivans down, and Predator came down in his own car. I rode back to the hotel with him. Me, Predator, and Exodus in a car, and all the way back to the hotel.
Yeah.
We were so disgruntled. That was probably the closest to crying I've ever been before a game of laser tag.
Right.
Like, I mean, just staring out the window going, I hate this. Like, it was so
you were so close. Yeah.
Oh, it was there. You couldn't write a better script. Like, there was no reason why we shouldn't have won that, and we just shit in our own hands. So, and that was that was hard to recover from that, because looking at even the next year was a terrible down year for us.
Right. Yeah, I kind of glossed over 2004.
It was.
Nothing really happened for Westland.
We played tryouts in 2004, and I mean, I think even that year, like most of the years I played, like the early years I played 18, 19 tournaments a year.
Right.
And then we get to 2004, I played like 4, 5.
Yeah.
And it's like we played tryouts, and I didn't play a single game between tryouts and regionals.
Oh wow.
And so we got to regionals in Rockford that year, and we were all like, I don't know, what do you want to do? I don't know, what do you want to do? We're like, fuck it, give James first pack. Okay.
How did he do?
He was like 10th overall in the region, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But it's a playing style thing, right? And so he's so geared to play a certain way with a certain type of pack. And it's like if you're playing first pack, you can't play that way. Like you got to utilize that pack in a whole different way.
Absolutely.
And he, his game was to let's go find the 8th and 9th pack and beat the crap out of him. So it's like, you want your first pack doing that.
Yeah.
And so, and then it's so like, I'm playing like 8th or 9th pack at that point. I'm like, whatever, like, I don't care. And so, but I remember we got to like finals, and Predator's like, we're gonna switch Andy and James back. I was like, all right. So
probably a good move.
Yeah. But then, right after that, right after regional, Force left to go to the Air Force. We played a Summer Slam, but I think I don't even know who I played with. Maybe I didn't even go to that Summer Slam. Can't remember. But we were all just kind of discombobulated, and we went to Rochester, and we were just like, whatever. And then I remember Force flew in that Saturday to play the tournament with us from the Air Force.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so 2004 was just a complete off year. It was just, it was on the backside of the emotional letdown of 2003. It was like, we don't want to be hurt again.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think in Rochester, if I remember correctly, you ended up in a bracket with Phoenix and Brampton, and I think you took third. So an off year, but still you made playoffs at NAC and you end up in that 7, 8, 9 spot. So that's it speaks volumes. The motivation is not there. That still speaks volumes to the level of talent that is on that team, right?
And that was the year that Brampton won.
Yes.
So I mean, the team that we faced, teams we lost to in semifinals there was the 2-time NAC champs, which at that time Phoenix is still a really good team, and the eventual champions that year. And Brampton was knocking on the door for a long time. So
yeah, no shame there.
Yep.
2005 was kind of like a really meaningful year for you as far as like your individual performance go. So where was regionals in 2005?
2005 was in Hoffman.
Okay. How did Westland do?
We ended up in second place to Brampton.
Okay. And I don't want to talk too much about that regionals. I really want to focus on that NEC because you had, I think, probably the second most dominating performance at NEC ever individually. So how did that go for you? How was 2005 NEC for you?
So 2005 was Mesquite, and that was a year we were trying to get back on track. Honestly, it feels like
that was my girlfriend. Sorry.
Hi.
She's the star of the podcast.
Right. It felt like it was more circumstantial than anything else. Why I won so many of the games. I mean, I can only play that good if I have a team that helps me out like they did.
Right.
And so, if it wasn't me, it would have been one of the other guys easily. At that time, Predator, Force, Dodger, easily Exodus. They could have easily won as many games as I did. But that was, I remember we had a focus on, we went back to focusing on a team again, and because we had problems, and so I remember we felt like for some reason we had this thought in our head like Lincoln was the reason we lost to Denver in 2003.
Okay.
And Lincoln, like I can look at it now in hindsight and go, Lincoln was just like us. They weren't any different. They had the same level of intensity in the arena as we did. And, it's like, and so we got to NAC in Mesquite, and I remember playing practice games against all the Lincoln guys. Like, they were in every game that we were in. I mean, every time we went up to the center, they were there. It was like, okay. Right. And so it just kind of, it fed the feud. There's like a new rivalry all of a sudden. And then we got into playoffs, and we played Lincoln in playoffs, and it felt like we beat the shit out of them, and it felt so good. It was just like, yeah. And then we got into finals, and it was like, oh, that's all we had. And we we get into finals. Was it NRH in Houston? And there was no reason for us to be in there. Like NRH in Houston, they were more of a cohesive team and squad, and they had a better plan than we had. It was, I think, it was more circumstantial that we got there than anything else. So.
Okay, I remember. I appreciate what you're saying about the depth of talent and the support that you got from your team. I do remember. I don't know if you remember this, but and this is maybe from 2002 or 2003, we had Malice had posted on the news group something along the lines of you were like a standout player, like for him, in his opinion, like he saw no one else really on Westland, like controlling areas like you did, or playing like, cutbacks like you did. So I appreciate the fact that you're saying like, I think you averaged like 1.3.
Yeah. I think I won like 5 prelim games or something.
That's it. So I don't know if anybody on Westland would have been able to do that. Let's just say it was a very impressive performance.
I remember the post that you're talking about of Malice. That was on the backside of 2001, and that was going into 2003 or 2002, and that was the year I wasn't playing for Westland, and that was a big cause of a rift there between us, some of us feeling that they weren't getting the recognition without games. And so that caused a lot of animosity. And it wasn't, like I said, those guys are just as good.
Right.
I mean, Horse could have won as many games. Dodger could have won as many games.
They just had different roles.
Yeah, we just had different roles.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, so then let's move on to 2006. Speaking of Lincoln, because you spoke a lot about Lincoln. 2006 was obviously the year Lincoln killed everybody. But had Lincoln not been there that year, I mean, like Westland were just as dominant right that year. I think you guys came first regionals and took second at NEC. So how was that year for you?
Yeah, that 2006. So obviously they gave us regionals in Westland. And we thought, okay, let's pick up the pieces from 2005. Let's figure it out. Let's get our heads on straight. Let's do this. We started getting a little more mature about things. There started to be a little less animosity, a little less division in the team.
Okay.
And we started to gel a little bit. I think having regionals in Westland was pretty helpful. Even though I always tend to think like having to travel as a group somewhere that you're a little more cohesive.
Yeah, certainly.
But having it in our own home center where we knew what to expect from the equipment, from the center, from the maze, we knew everything that was going to go on in there, and it wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of how much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so we knew we were going to win that regional. Just all right, how much are we going to break one off of these guys?
Yep.
And so, and was it Appleton made finals and Hoffman?
Quite possible.
I think it was, because I remember Brampton got screwed somehow in a playoff, but they didn't have a very good team that year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And so, so we went. It was shortly after regionals. They told us that they were going to close the Westland Center in August. So we weren't even going to make it to NAC with a center.
Ouch.
Yeah, and so it was, it was a gut punch. It was, we were all pretty bummed out. I already went through it once before.
Yes.
So maybe I'm like the Grim Reaper. I just show up and start closing centers.
Close the centers.
Although I think Heckler's done a pretty good job with San Antonio and Colorado Springs. So.
He's the one. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Clinton Township before that. So, but so we were pretty bummed out. We thought, okay, this is our last shot. Like, we're all in on this deal. And I remember all of our practices. I remember having a big team meeting, and we said, all right, what do we need to do here? And this, neither of you guys were at NAC in 2006, were you?
Nope.
Okay. So I remember all of us having this big team meeting and said, all right, what do we need to do? And I remember I said this, you guys ever been to a tournament where lasers didn't work? And they all got quiet, and they go, no. We've been to tournaments where shoulders don't work, or they're overly sensitive, or the fronts and backs are overly sensitive, or the fronts and backs are non-existent, but lasers always work. Man, we drilled so hard and practiced so much on just tracking lasers, right? I mean, and I remember we got to Vegas, we played the first practice game, and I walked out and I looked at Hutch, and he looked at me, and we just started laughing. There wasn't a fucking laser to be had.
Yeah.
You couldn't hit a laser to save your life. It was like, whatever. Like, it is what it is. I guess we got shoulders, I guess. And it's just like the one thing you prepare for, and that's the one thing.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. And so, but, in saying that, Lincoln went undefeated that year. They steamrolled through their regional. They steamrolled through NAC. I'll take some solace in the fact that we at least got close in finals with them. And so, but that was another good run. We got second to them. They beat us all 3 games in the finals. They beat us by a good chunk the first game, and then it was much smaller the next 2 games. And we were just trying to just claw one out of them. We just couldn't get it. But it was, Appleton was in the finals with us too, and it was a nice send off because Appleton Center closed that year as well. Which is funny because Best Buy took over their building, and then one of the Appleton guys won a Best Buy gift card from Laser Quest.
Oh wow!
It was the funniest thing. He was like, "Really?" I can't remember. Was it Sean? I can't remember. One of those guys. Oh man,
That's hilarious. I already heard that.
Salt in the wound. But yeah, that was that was like, you know, I made the decision at that point. I was like, this is the last one. They closed 2 centers. Like now, the next closest center is going to be either Madison Heights or Clinton Township, and it's like, you know, they already got their own team. They already got their own players. I don't want to go in there and take spots from those guys.
Yeah.
You know, it's not. You know, I didn't have the affinity for them that I had for the Westland team.
Yes,
and for the Westland guys. And so, if we would have went over there, it would have been a blended team. It would have been weird. And so I just made the decision that in 2006, I was like, oh, this is my last knack. Like, you know, let's see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
We're going to get there. It sucks because it seems to me like a comedy of errors. Like every year something goes wrong for Westland and you're right there. You're like so close to winning like so many times.
If you, like you were talking about the Last Dance with Michael Jordan, there's a 30 for 30 on the Bad Boys Pistons, Detroit Pistons.
Yes.
Of how they built that team, and it was just every year just small tweaks.
Right.
You know, and it's like we weren't making those tweaks enough. It's like we needed just that little snap, and we couldn't get there. Just a little bit every time.
So I'm going to make an analogy there. If you're a basketball fan, so who is the Dennis Rodman of Team Westland?
Well.
Just say.
I don't want to make the obvious choice. So obviously Dennis Rodman is probably one of the most drama. At that time, I'd probably have to say it's probably Force.
Okay.
You can make a case for, in 2005 we had some issues with Casper. I remember 2005 was no, let me take that back. 2003 we had some issues with Casper.
Okay.
Dodger didn't make the team in 2003.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean our tryout roster, like I said, on paper that was a crazy stacked team. And we had a bunch of problems. We had a bunch of just bitch fests with Casper. I don't know what the deal was. I don't remember all the ins and outs of all of it, but we ended up having a big team meeting. We voted him off the team. We were like, okay, you're gone. And then Dodger was 11th place in tryouts, so it put him back on the team. But Casper went to NAC with us anyways in 2005 or 2003, sorry, and that caused a lot of distraction for us as well. And so, you know, but that, like I said, on paper, that should have been the team that won. So, you know, we always had people that were, we always had class clowns. I mean, all of us were like that, you know, you start trying to get the team together to have a meeting, and, you know, this guy starts talking over here, so you shut him up, and then this guy starts talking, and then you start going on a rant. It's like, you know, it was always like that. And I remember players from other teams coming in to hang out with us for a weekend or for a practice or something. They're just like, what the hell? Like,
yeah.
How do you guys even function? Like,
interesting.
But yeah, it was, you know, there was always somebody with a lot of drama, a lot of baggage, a lot of something going on.
Okay. I think I'm going to ask you a little bit more about this in detail a little bit later on. But so after NAC, you took a pretty big hiatus actually from Laser Quest, but you had kind of like a last hurrah at WLC, I think 2007. Phoenix, you want to take that one?
No, you could go ahead. I don't really know about what happened there. I didn't know.
To be honest.
That makes 3 of us.
Yeah, it's WLC 2007 didn't really come up in the podcast so far.
Yeah.
And I feel like with the caliber of players that we've had on, it should have. But where was it? Like, what was your team?
That was in Mississauga. And it was in 2007, so it was, I want to say it was in like March or something, February maybe. It was in the winter time.
Okay.
I remember, if I remember correctly, it was like myself, Marine, Ronan, Forrest, Hutch. I can't remember who was all in the squad, and I don't even remember how many people were on the teams. I think it was like 8 or 9,
7.
13, maybe.
Oh,
I don't
really?
know.
Okay.
I think it was 8. I think that year we tried to push for 8 just because it was something different than like VDM, which was 7, and NAC that was 9. We tried to do something different, and make an 8 player.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but I remember it was in Mississauga. The only thing I can really remember from that weekend was that I think we got second place, and I remember Hutch had some medication he was supposed to take, and he forgot it and had to drive all the way home.
Oh shit.
And it was like, yeah, I was like, what? He was like, yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. It's like, okay. Like, all right.
That sucks.
Yeah. So, but that was, and then I took a big hiatus after that. I popped up and played like a 3-man, like 2 years in a row. I played the 3-man in Madison Heights. It was like 2010, 2011, somewhere in there. I played 2 years, and that was just strictly out of Kenko reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, do you have a format or a schedule or something for this that I can use?" And I was like, "Yeah, let me dig around and see what I got." And so, because I kept all that stuff, which I still got it somewhere.
Right.
And so I was like, well, when is it? Maybe I'll come down. So I just, went down, played with like Hutch and Dodger one year, and then Hutch and Predator the next year. So just it was an excuse to go down and see the guys and bullshit with everybody.
You're not really practicing for those tournaments, right? You're just showing up.
Yeah. It was like I played 0 laser tag from WLC in 2007 till the 3-man that I played in 2010, 2011, somewhere in there. And then I didn't play. I played a game of Laser Quest in must have been 2010. Yeah, 2010 in Arlington Heights. We went down to Chicago. My wife's brother was moving down there. We were moving him down. I went right around the corner. Stop in and play. Just on a whim. And so, but then I didn't play another one until Armageddon. That was the next time I played a Laser Quest game.
Wow.
Oh, wow. I think, personally, the next time you pop up on my radar is the Avengers are assembling Team America and they need Captain America to come to their rescue. And so I remember seeing the picture after you won with like the Captain America like T-shirt. So how did it come about?
I played a tournament before that, and that was in Chicago Grand Scrim.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, so that was because what happened is I started kind of poking around. Like, I got invited into the Laser Quest page on Facebook, and just started kind of reading things and looking at things, and I was kind of started throwing my 2 cents in there like I normally do. And so, there was a lot of players there were a lot of newer players coming on and a lot of older players wanted to get the newer players up and running and get them to where they can compete and give them an opportunity. And so I seen that Daniel Leach was starting to run some tournaments out of Chicago, and I thought Chicago's not that damn far. Like, it's 2.5-hour drive. Like, I could make it down to those tournaments. And so I started helping him out with formats and schedules and stuff like that. And he ran his first one in Rockford, if I remember correctly. And so I was supposed to go to that with Wombat from Madison Heights, and he had a problem and couldn't go, and that was my ride. And somebody else dropped off the team, and it was like all of a sudden we went from having 5 guys to having 2, and I was like, well, guess I'm not making that drive. And so didn't go to it, but then I went the following year when he did it in Downers Grove. And that was I played with Appleton. Aunt Lou was like, "Hey, you want to play this?" And I was like, "Yeah, like, I'm down with that." Like, I always loved the Appleton guys. I always thought they were some of the nicest guys,
Absolutely.
And so, but before that, I played Armageddon in 2015, and I just kind of totally stumbled into that. But that was a lot of fun to play that. I don't know if you ever played Armageddon.
I was supposed to here, but I got assigned a big project at work and I couldn't go. I couldn't get the days off. I heard the camaraderie is amazing.
It might be the best value for your money for laser tag.
Right.
Like, honestly, for the one price of travel, hotel, all the games you get to play, and all the different systems and different settings, dude, it's awesome.
How did you do?
We got second in Armageddon. And of course, we lost to Hot Dice's team.
Yes.
He knows which players to pick, right?
Yeah. Sometimes.
Stacking.
Yeah. So there, you know, it is what it is. But we weren't happy with that one. But I was actually supposed to. Kyle and Travis actually reached out to me and they were like, "Hey, you interested in playing Armageddon?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to." And then I started messaging different guys, and somebody messaged me and they were like, they were from the other side of the state, Canton area, which is right by Westland. And there was a group of players from there that were going to play Armageddon, and I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll come down and practice with you guys. Like, you know, I haven't played that stuff in years, and on that equipment, like, you know, I'll come down and play. And I went down and played with them, and they're like, oh, dude, you should just play with us. And I was like, oh, maybe. Like, I already committed to playing with Travis and Ryan.
Right.
And they were like, oh, just play with us, And I was like, I would prefer to play with a more local group of guys, and I could go and practice with them and stuff like that. I mean, Travis and Ryan are down in Virginia. Like, I'm not going to make it down there to play with them.
Right. Yeah.
And so I just told Travis and Ryan, I was like, hey, listen, guys, I'm going to jump on with these guys. They need another guy. You guys have more than enough people locally to play with. I'm going to play with these guys. We're going to go down and play a tournament in Fort Wayne. We're going to go out and do this other stuff. And it was great. We got second place. And I mean, I was ecstatic with that.
An experience, yeah.
Yeah. And so, but, you know, they wanted a Laser Quest player.
Right.
And so I fit that mold. So.
Yeah, very much so.
But yeah, so then it was shortly after that. And then I started the Grand Scrim stuff. And then I got Aunt Lou. To play Armageddon the next year. I was like, dude, it's awesome. You got to try it. And then he's like, this is fucking crazy. So, and then that's when we were talking to Lucian, and we were in Virginia there, in DC, I should say. We were talking to Lucian, and he was like, hey, you want to play Vegas? And I was like, maybe. And that was, you know, so that was 2018 Vegas tournament, because 2019 was the last one, right?
2019 was the last one, yes.
Yeah. So 2018, I played Lucian, Aunt Lou, who else? Ginger Spice. I can't remember who all was on the team.
Already, that's a fun team.
Yeah, I mean, a great group of guys. I mean, we had a terrific time there. But we played we got first seed, and then we sat and waited for that damn bye. And it was like, it's like, okay, listen, I haven't played a lock-in tournament in like 10 years. Like, I'm too old to be just sitting around waiting. And so it's like, whoa. And then, we go in there, we play Cat 5. So it's, Enemy, Capri Sun, Kyle.
Oh, that's here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they just not on this. And so it was like, okay, well, I'm glad that's over. So,
okay.
But then, we went back and, on the backside of that, and Lou goes, all right, I want to play like one more tournament and then I'm done forever. And I was like, no, you're not. No, one more tournament. He goes, I think the next Chicago tournament is going to be my last one. So he goes over and he asks Vince, Enemy, he goes, hey, I'm going to play one more tournament. You want to come up to Chicago and play with me? And then he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Who else you got? He's like, I got Andy. And he's like, all right. He goes, who else you got? He goes, I don't know. Maybe I'll see if I can get Infester. Like, okay. and we'll get Ginger Spice. Ridiculously stat team for a Chicago.
Yeah.
Just stupid. And so, and it was funny though, because I'm not in practice. I'm playing with him, and he goes. I remember we were coming out of a game, and Vince is like, "Oh, dude, I crushed that game. I crushed that game." And I'm thinking, "No, you didn't." Aunt Lou's like, man, I was like second place the whole game. And he's like, yeah, to me. And the scores pop up, and I had like 150 points over Vince, and he was like, what the hell? I mean, it was just ridiculous scores, ridiculous.
Wow.
It was some team. It was a bunch of new guys. No, it was Sorley's team. That's
yeah. Yep.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, that was kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie. And so we played that, and then yeah. So then Aunt Lou says he's done. But, let's try to drag him out at some point.
Hopefully. Yeah. He's just a cool guy to have around. Like
Josh is a great guy. He really is. I've always liked playing with him. He was one of the first teams to come into Grand Rapids and just hang out for a night and play. They were on their way to like the Westland 2-man in like '99, and they stopped in Grand Rapids like the night before. We played a bunch of games, just hung out. I mean, they're real cool guys.
And that's really what it's all about. I mean, nowadays, right? It's not really about like it's still a competition because it's in you, but
right?
It's really being out. Okay, so tell me about Team USA at the last Vegas tournament ever. How did you get on that team?
So I was supposed to play. I was supposed to play again with Lucian. I think it was like Lucian, Russ, and somebody else. I can't remember, but I was supposed to play with them, and I was just like, I made the decision back in like October. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna go, guys. And then it got announced like, what was it, a month before? Like, hey, it's the Las Vegas tournament. I was like, man, it would have been nice. It would have been nice to play on that, but whatever. Like, I never did that great in Vegas, anyways. Like, I never felt like I played good there.
Okay.
It was a fun place to go and just hang out, and obviously everybody likes going there, so it's fun to go and hang out with everybody. But I never had like that love for it in Vegas, and so
right.
It was like Wednesday before the tournament. I get a text message from Marine. He goes, "Hey, any interest in going to Vegas?" I go, "Yeah, I got interest in going to Vegas." I was like, "Dude, I can't go now." Like, and he goes, I think he had a friend of his pass away or something, and so yeah, it was something pretty serious, and so he's like, "I can't go," and I was like, "Oh, dude, that sucks." And so I took a screenshot and I sent it to my wife, and I go, "Oh, this sucks, don't it?" Because she's known Jason for a long time as well. And so she goes, "Oh, that's too bad." She goes, "Well, you can go if you want." And I was like, "What?" And I go, "What's his name?" And so anyways, I go, "Oh, wow, okay." And so I sent him a text back. I go, "Hey, wife says I can go," and I don't think the message was even read yet. And all of a sudden, I got a message from Ray, a message from Nick, a message from Kyle. I was like, "Oh, okay, whoa. Like, I haven't looked at flights yet, guys. Like, let's settle down." Like, and I also haven't played in like, almost a year at this point. Like, and so, he goes, they go, "Well, listen, man, you'd be doing us a huge favor, so we'll help you out on flight costs or whatever." And I'm like, "Okay," because now you're buying a ticket 2 days before, like, it's not cheap. And so they're like, "Well, we rented a house, don't worry about it." So they rolled out the red carpet for me, man. It was awesome. And then I was just like, well, hopefully I can just go there and not get negatives. Like, let's just hope I can put a pack on and stay vertical the whole game. And so, so we, they picked me up at the airport, and it was kind of surreal sitting there. Like I played a lot of tournaments with Ryan, and I've known Ryan for a real long time. And I've played against Nick and Ramiro and Vince and Ray. I played against those guys for years too, but we never, we never really spent a lot of time together. And so, just chilling with those guys, at the house, at the casinos, going out to eat. I mean, super good group of guys, like honestly, real down to earth guys. And so I was humbled that they wanted me to play. and I was happy that I could help them out. And then, we went there, and I mean, we won the Las Vegas tournament. I mean, I can't. It was. Were you on that team? You were on that team, weren't you, Alex?
No. I didn't go to Vegas that year. The only 2 Vegas tournaments that I played, I won. So I didn't know because I knew I was not gonna win. The teams were too good.
I was trying to remember. I remember it was Justin, Sushi, Wolverine,
Trixie.
Right?
Yep.
Oh, and
Wolverine.
Yep. Yeah. So that's I couldn't. Trixie. That's what I was missing. But and Vamp and Camp. Yeah. Vamp and Camp. Yeah, it was a 6-man. It was the first time it was a 6-man.
Yeah.
And so that was brutal because, like I said, I here it was 2 days before. Like, I haven't stretched, I haven't moved, I haven't even thought about pulling a trigger on a gun, and now all of a sudden I'm getting on a plane and going to Vegas like a day later. Like, holy shit! And so I'm not in game shape at all, like not even remotely. And so I'm watching like Cam and Vamp flip around, and I'm like, yeah, I used to do that shit. Like, not anymore. Like, old man Andy. But it was a lot of fun. It was enjoyable. But we played NRH in semifinals, and that was brutal. Guys, I mean, NRH is a top notch team. Like there's top notch players. They really are. And like we decided, we're like, okay, let's play a game with them. Let's all go to the tower, and then they all stay on the floor. And so like the first 2 or 3 minutes of that game was just a snipe fest. To just try not to get shot, try to shoot somebody. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
I mean, with a full NRH team and then the God Squad that we had over on this team, is like, you would not think a playoff game would go like that. It was the most surreal. I remember just looking, like, me and Nick are like hiding in the tower, like, hey,
what the hell's going on?
Should we go down and chase them? Like, ooh. And so, we chased them around the second game, and we pulled it out. But it was a lot closer than it probably should have been. It was a lot closer than we were comfortable with.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then we played finals against Justin's team, and I think it was the 30 seconds for the end of the first game, Ray's packed in the game.
Oh shit!
Okay. Yeah, we're all like looking at him. We're like, we're still playing. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, Marshall. He starts flipping out, and then the game's over by the time they get it resolved. And so they're like, well, we'll look at it at the end and see if it matters if we can replay it. And I think we won that double quest by like 50 points, right? It was really small.
Yeah.
And so the argument could be made, and if Ray was up, Justin's team could tag him and get 50 points, right?
Yep.
Even though I think Ray was one of the top players in the game. And so I'm like, well, we already got the money. Like, let's just walk. And Nick's like, nah, let's go in and replay it. I was like, dude, we won. Like, Nick's like, no, I want to replay it. I'm like, okay. And then we went in there and we beat him by like a couple hundred points.
Yes.
And so I could tell there was some animosity between some of those guys, and they wanted to just stomp one out on them. But it was a lot of fun. I was prepared to broker a deal. Like, hey, listen, we get this much, you guys get this much, we all get this much.
It's Vegas, This is what happens in Vegas.
And nobody wanted to take me up on that offer. So.
But it's actually pretty cool that you guys chose to play it out.
Yeah.
Especially it's Vegas. It's the last tournament. Yep. It's closing, and the amount of talent on those 2 teams. I mean, like, I wish where like Laser Quest was a little bit more, like we could stream it or we could like put it on TV because I those games. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I wish we could do that. But okay. So this wraps up a very successful career, very storied career.
I won one more tournament after that.
Did you?
I don't remember.
From my memory, I predicted you guys got 4th. Okay, if you go to my YouTube channel, I thought you guys would get 4th.
I watched that podcast like the 2 days after we got back, and I was like, Adam, Adam called it 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, he did. And actually,
he was on it.
Would you like to talk about Mississauga 2020? How was that experience?
It was a lot of fun. Like, I've played with Doug before. Never got a chance to play with Spam, Matt, and Jinx and Bones. Never really got a chance to play with them before either. Honestly, like, it was such a blur, and the schedule was so condensed that I didn't get a chance to really talk to Jinx and Bones. I didn't get a chance to really spend a lot of time with those guys that I really wanted to. They seemed like really good guys. I remember them from years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember like we were 5 minutes before the first game went in, and I looked at Doug and I go, all right, who's our teammates? Like, I haven't seen those guys in 10 years or so.
Yeah.
And so it was really fun. It was really surreal. It was fun to play in Mississauga again.
Yes.
I really like playing in that arena. I don't know why. I tend to do pretty well there. There's something about the dynamics of how that tower is set up that feels good for the way I play.
Well, you like the Crow's Nest. At Marshall Finals, and you were just in the Crow's Nest. You were fighting Gengar 1-on-1, and you had everyone down. I remember. Yeah, you were doing
good. Gengar, he put a hurting on me that first game.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Yep.
He worked me, and I remember I was walking out of the game to switch packs out after when the game was over, and Corbin's like, "Yeah, I had that pack. It was horrible." I was like, "Yeah, it felt horrible."
Shoulders were horrible under your first pack. Yeah, I remember that.
And Gengar's pack didn't have any. I was like, "Oh, this isn't even fair." But I love playing that Crow's Nest for some reason.
That must have been like a cool win. Probably not the most storied win or like highlight of your career, but
it did feel it kind of came out of nowhere though. It just kind of felt like all of a sudden it was like, oh man, we got a chance to do this. Like, wow, and I know Doug kind of put the whole team together, and he was pretty excited for it. And Matt played fantastic, like normal.
Especially in Saga, he's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, Matt's a super good guy. I always like that guy. But no, it was pretty exciting to win that. I mean, the last time I played in Mississauga was World Challenge 2007. So.
Okay, now I think we're done. There's no more surprising tournaments that you won, that you beat my team into the ground.
No, as a matter of fact, after we won, they closed all the laser quests. They're all done.
Yeah, hopefully they reopen. Hopefully we have more centers to play with. Another story.
Be ideal.
Okay, Phoenix, you wanna keep going?
Yep. There's another thing. I remember Andy before leaving Mississauga shook my hand and said he will play a tournament with me. So you are not retired.
Never said I was retired.
Retire again, I mean.
Nobody ever retires, right?
True.
Kind of just fade away.
Yep. So now we're at the segment that we do with every player, every person that we put on the broadcast. So it's a time for the top fives. So what would be your top 5 of all time?
All time. So I remember looking, I think, was it Nate's podcast or somebody's podcast early on, where when they started doing that, I was like, I wonder what mine would be. And I started jotting down answers to his questions. Mm-hmm. So I've had a little time to think on it. Okay. I think number 1, I want to start with number 1 and work my way down to 5, only because I want to split 5 into A and B.
Okay.
So it'll be a top 5.5. So I think number 1, I think I got to go with Corwin. I think the longevity of his career, still being able to put up huge scores, be an amazing player. And when I put these numbers up, this isn't just looking at stats. This is people who I physically have played against in the arena. Like all the years I played on Westland, my job was to play against the top players. It was to go find the guy who's got the number 1 pack, or who's going to hold the toughest position. My job is to play that guy. And so I always held Corwin in high regards as one of the best players of all time, which he's on everybody's list, right?
Yep.
And so, and if he's not there, he's in the prime or current. He's in the list somewhere.
Yes.
But he was one of the first players I seen in like '99 where I was just like, wow, like, okay, what do I got to do to beat that? Like, how good do I got to get to beat that? And so I've always looked at him and I was like, I like the way he does it, and he's done it for 20 some years now. Because all the other guys, like I'll list up, like they had runs where they weren't very good or didn't play at all. And Corwin's been like, I think Corwin took a year off to get married. I guess the only time he ever took a year off.
Right.
And so which, hey, I totally understand. I do the same thing. And so, but so I put him as number one. Number two, enemy Vince. I think another guy who's played for a long time. But when he does play, I mean, he's phenomenal, right?
Yep.
Him dropping huge scores on us at VDM. I mean, even the year we won and we beat him, like he broke 1,000 points each game in finals. I mean, it was just, all you're trying to do is contain him. You're just trying to limit the amount of damage he can do. And so I always looked at Vince as one of the guys that was just a pain in the ass to play against. You get your money worth when you play him. Number three, that's Kyle. Ryan is, like we started playing, he started a couple years before me, but we played so many tournaments against each other, so many tournaments with each other. And so like I've literally watched that guy grow up, right? And so like I can remember there was a period of time where it was like 4 or 5 weeks in a row we played tournaments every single week together, like against each other in finals. So it was like 2000 or 2001. It was like, all right, man, see you next weekend. Yep, see you next weekend. And then like, he'd be there with his dad, and he'd be like, oh, hey, how you doing, And so, but super respectable guy. He always busts his ass. Super humble guy. Just a great guy all around. And like, the numbers don't lie, man. You can't.
Yeah.
Other than an NAC win, what's the guy missing? After that, I go with Decoy. And that is because I think he was very innovative in how he played and how he viewed the game. Played a lot of tournaments with him, played a lot of tournaments against the guy, played a lot of games against the guy. And so, I've seen him play a 2-man with a girl he was dating. And he was number one and got her into like semifinals, and I was just like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm like, that's impressive. Like, who else is gonna do that? So, and even playing him in Mississauga, like I haven't seen him since 2007, and so, he still got it. Like he's still good. He's still an effective player. Mm-hmm. And so I always respected Blair. I always thought he was a top level guy. So then we get to number 5, and that one I had a hard time. I almost wanted to flip a coin, but I didn't feel like that was going to be fair. So I give this to 007, Nate, and Dark Angel.
Okay.
And that's strictly because of the body of work that those guys have done over time. Obviously, Nate's got a laundry list of victories, things that he's been involved in.
Yes.
And Ricky's the same way. How many NAC victories does NRH have? And Ricky's not just strictly Laser Quest. His contributions for Armageddon.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some of that stuff. It holds so much weight. But when I first started playing, I was like, well, who's the best player? And it was like, Hutch is the best player. Okay. And then you play Hutch and you're like, well, who else is good? And it's like 007 is the best. Okay, I want to see how 007 plays. And so there was a folklore around 007 and even some of his other teammates, which I'll get to in a little bit.
Yeah.
But to play him and play him over the years that we played him, I mean, he was always a terrific player, very smart player, and really a good guy overall. And the same thing with Ricky. Like, you play Ricky, like, you earn your tags. Like, that's you're not taking a game off against Ricky. Like, even playing in finals there, or playing in semifinals in Vegas against him, like, it's him and I one-on-one. I mean, and that's a grind, you know?
Right.
And so, but he's super respectable, super humble, great guy to talk to. He's got a mind for the game. He likes it. You know, he loves it. So those two guys, I kind of put. I had a hard time picking between the two of them, and I really couldn't.
I have someone that just showed up. I have to do something. You could cut me out. I'm gonna keep on listening to the podcast though.
Okay.
Sorry
Sounds
about
good.
that. I might come back on, but I just have someone with the aircon and I'm dying. It's like fucking 40 degrees here. Fucking. I'm gonna keep listening. No, don't worry about it. It was nice chatting with you, Andy.
Yeah. Thanks, Louis.
Thanks.
Thanks, Louis. Okay. You had a very unique take actually on your top 5, on your 6 players that you gave me for your top 5.
Right. Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay. So now slightly different angle question. What do you consider to be top 5 in their prime?
In their prime.
Yeah.
So what I'll say, so I'll start with number 1. I only got 5 for this one, so it works out pretty good. When I first started playing, the first guy that really blew me away other than Corwin was Hocus Pocus.
Okay.
So I'm going to put him at number 1 for top 5 in the prime.
Okay.
I think his ability to play, see the game, and control an area made me want to play in a very similar manner like he played. Like I said, my first NAC there, I played 3 feet away from him, nose to nose with him, and we traded victories all through semifinals. And I learned a lot from playing against that guy. But he was so dominant for that year, and obviously the stats from the years before, 98, 99, and even in the 2001 a little bit. But something happened, and then he just wasn't into it after that. But he was, in his prime, he was up there, man. He was outrageous.
He was insane. Yeah.
Number 2, Ronan. That's a guy who came out of nowhere, just like he was there all of a sudden. And how many tournaments did he win in a row?
Yeah.
And so he was a highly impressive player. I can remember playing him in a one-on-one in the lobby of the Michigan 3-man. Must have been, let's say, 04. And it was that year where we just weren't into it, and I was playing him, and I was kind of half-assing it, and I realized about halfway through that this guy's kind of kicking my ass, and it was like kind of that point where I was like, it's probably a little late to turn it on now and try to beat him, and so I just I let it go, and he was so excited that he won that, and I remember I put my pack down, and Clarkness was sitting there, and Clark goes, "Way to just give it to him," and he was so pissed at me, and I was like, what? I was like, the guy's getting good, man. Like, let him run. And so, but his win streak, and even because we got to play with him in Downers Grove at the Grand Scrim there, he was on our team. Somebody had his phone number, just called him up out of the blue, and he happened to show up. And so, and he's still good. He still got it. But those couple years there, I mean, he was lights out, man.
Absolutely.
After that, I got Clarkness.
Okay. Yeah.
Another guy who just popped up out of nowhere, and I think it was like 01 to 03, maybe 04. That guy was just dominant.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And I played a couple tournaments with him. Played a lot of tournaments against him, and he was just a pain in the ass to play. And again, it was my job to go play heads up against him the whole time. And he was a grind. That guy was really good. He won a lot of tournaments as well, and
Yes.
In a short amount of time too. It's kind of sad. Like Rockford never really got the rest of their team going. Like the top 3 or 4 guys on that Rockford team, because they had some real elite players on that team. After that, I got Excalibur, Adam.
Okay.
There were a handful of years and a handful of tournaments where he was dominant.
Untouchable.
Yeah, I mean, like where I'd be whooping ass in there, and I come out and I'm like, why is his name up there? I'm like, holy shit, And so, but he's always been a real good player. The first time I played him was '99, which obviously he's pretty young. I mean, we all were '99, right? Yep. And so, but it wasn't until 2002, 2003, 4, 5, somewhere in there where he was lights out. I mean, he's an elite scorer. He has been for a long time, right. But it was hard to keep him off my all-time top 5 list.
Yeah, it was first actually. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's always been an elite player. But I think his peaks were a lot higher than. It's hard to really describe it. Like there were tournaments where I look at some of the stats even to this day, and I'm like, oh, shit, like, damn, he averaged that. Wow.
Right.
So yeah, I've never played a tournament with Adam, actually, surprisingly.
Really? Yeah. That's surprising.
Played a lot of tournaments against him. So
yeah.
But honestly, and like he'll even tell you, he runs from me. So he's always been an elite player. So and then to round up top 5, I got Capri Sun.
Okay.
I think early 2000s, he had some dominant performances and even specific performances against us, where it was just like, holy shit. But his numbers speak for themselves, and even the career he's had to this point. I mean, he's still a damn good player. But yeah, his early 2000s, like VDM, smashed us so hard. It was so bad. And even when we played him in AC 2001, or there was somewhere else we played him, and man, was he good, just so good. So that's my top 5 on that.
Okay. And even though your last tournament goes back to 2019, and you definitely did not play a tournament in 2020 in Mississauga,
I don't know.
Do you have an opinion on the top 5 current players?
I do. I think number 1, you can't discount. You can't go away from Justin. I think Justin's the best player currently.
Right.
And I think maybe in all things said and done, he squeaks into some top 5s for all time. And it's not just his play, which I mean he's an elite player. He's a terrific player all around. I think his contributions to the scene. I think his ability to put some tournaments together and put some events together speaks volumes for how much he loves the game and likes the people and stuff involved with it. So I think he's easily probably the best player right now. Backside of that, I give it to Wolverine. From Akron or Canton, one of them, wherever he's from, Ohio.
That area, yeah.
Yeah. I got to play with him in Vegas. That was who our other player was when I was on Lucian team, Wolverine. He is a terrific guy, and that guy can score some points. Played a handful of tournaments against him. He was starting to get on a roll and starting to get his feet under him when I was kind of closing out in 607. And so he's had a pretty good body of work, but right now, I mean, you look at that, if he plays a tournament and he's not in the top 5, I'm pretty surprised.
Right.
So yeah, I think he's probably the second best player currently. After that, I go to Andrea Blue Flame.
Yes.
I think I haven't played her. I haven't even seen her in a while. Was she in a Vegas tournament that I was at? Maybe. I think she was.
She was on the NRA team, right?
That's right. Yeah, she was. And so, she's super good. And the numbers don't lie. Even though it's a male-dominated sport, I mean, that's just sheer numbers. That's all that is.
Right.
Because she's constantly in the top 10 or top 5 of every tournament she plays at. And she's a terrific player. She really is.
Yes.
And she, we had some battles in Vegas there, and it's like, wow, like this lady's a pain in the ass. Like she really is. And so I think she's definitely up there. Number 4, I go to Warrior.
Okay.
I think Doug. I played with Doug in Mississauga. He's a fantastic player. He's been a good player for a long time.
Yes.
And so I think the Denver tournament they had last year, I was going to go to that, and I didn't get a chance to. It fell during a vacation for our family. But I think he was like first overall for that.
Yeah, quite possible.
Yeah, I think he was. But I mean, he'll still drop these ridiculous scores. Like you're just like, wow, sweet. But he's so quiet, so humble. Plays hard. He's a good guy all the way around. And so I think he's still up there as one of the top 5. And then the 5th place one is a guy I played heads up in finals of Mississauga, and that was Gengar.
Yes.
Probably a little bit of a dark horse pick here, but he's had some tournaments where he's done exceptionally well. Looking at the stats and stuff, different tournaments, he's a very good player. Playing me heads up in Mississauga in the crow's nest. I mean, he held step for step with me the whole time. Matter of fact, he destroyed me the first game. I mean, it was. Yeah. I was like, all right, do I need to run away? Like, I haven't been in this position in a long time. Like, do I need to leave? I don't get it. But so it was, it was pretty humbling to play him. So I think he's probably in the top 5 as well for Kurt.
Solid choice, and he was kind of a player that kind of pierced and made his mark on the scene after most of us have been playing for like 15 years. You know what I mean? So
right.
Much more impressive that he's able to like in a short period of time get to that level where he's hanging out with like top-notch players.
Yep.
Okay. So from your history and from since you started Laser Quest, you're pretty much good at tag like right off the bat, right? Obviously, there's a little bit of a learning curve. There's like I don't count like your non-competitive years. But as soon as you started playing competitive, you were still pretty good. So how did that come out? Like where did that come? Were you just like innately talented laser tag?
I don't think I had some weird innate ability to just turn it on and do it. I worked at it. I mean, I envisioned the game. I thought about it a lot. I worked for it. I mean, the only games I played, like once I started playing competitively, the only games I played were competitive games. Like I didn't go play a Saturday night, 8:00, public game. Like if I was, there were 10 other members in there and I was in the pit with them. And so, but that made me focus and hone in on that. Like, I mean, you put all this time and effort into playing, like, go the whole distance, like, put everything you got into it. And so there were a number of years where I wasn't very good, and I'm pretty thankful that the Westland guys stuck it out with me.
Right.
But yeah, it was not an easy trek. I mean, I did everything I could to, put forth some effort into it, and make a difference. I wanted to be an impactful player. I don't want to be a guy who just shows up and I got 13th, whatever. Like, I wanted to be a guy who's like I'm in there doing something.
Obviously, that happened. So I want to segment a little bit into the Westland team dynamics. So, without getting without getting too much into drama, because that's not really what the point of this podcast is. I'm really curious to see how it worked. Let me clarify a little bit by saying that I think Westland is historically one of the team with like the most talent, top to bottom. It was absolutely insane. So tell me a little bit about one, the leadership, who were kind of like the voices, how decisions were made, and two, about role. We spoke a little bit earlier about role playing. Obviously, you had really, really strong role player at certain positions. So like, shout out some names and tell me what their roles were on the team.
So when I started, the conception of the team, when I started, like, the idea was like, oh, Exo is going to be the captain. He's the best player, blah, blah, blah. And so when I joined the team in 2000, some of the dynamics changed a little bit. And some of that was because we had a lot of the Madison Heights players trying out for the Westland team as well. And so you had some guys in leadership positions like Jerk, for example, and Hutch, who didn't make the team in 2000, but made it in 2001. And so when it came to 2000, we decided as a group that the captaincy should go to the guy who's probably going to be the most responsible, like as a person.
Okay.
And that fell to Diluvian. And he was a terrific captain for us. I mean, that was a guy who, you know, he kept us organized, kept us on task. You know, he was a guy who was going, hey, you know, knock it off, let's do this shit. And so, you know, because we're all young kids, right? We're all 18, 19, 20 years old. You know, we don't know anything.
Right.
And so he was a little bit older than us, maybe 2 or 3 years older than us. But you know, he was just a voice of reason, sometimes a calming voice, you know, when it started getting noisy. And so when you get to 2001, now you add Hutch, and you get his leadership as well. And so that's another calming influence, another calming voice. But you still have so many guys on the team that are so emotional.
Right.
And that's probably the best descriptive term for Westland was emotional.
Okay.
We're less of a team and more of a time bomb. And that's like for every year we played together. That's kind of how we were. It was just like, you know, we were, you know, where can we focus the rage? You know, like, you know, that's where we went. And that's why, like, you know, we have a moment of brilliance or a win or whatever, and then, you know, we fizzle out. You know, we win the first game in 2003 against Denver, and we're done after that. We beat Lincoln in 2005. Yeah, showed those guys, and we're done. You know, it's like, so that was kind of the best way to describe the team, really. I mean, we had a lot of infighting. We had a lot of, you know, what I recognized when we left NAC in 2006, when we left the after party, and all the Lincoln guys were standing outside. They were all outside doing push-ups after the party, right?
Wow.
This isn't after the tournament. This is after the party. Like, we've been doing shots, having drinks, you know, having a good time. We're leaving. These guys are out there doing push-ups, and I went, that's why we lost right there. Like, that right there. And it was because we didn't have that level of dedication. That's all it was. Like, if we would have just focused on winning and just dedicated ourselves to it. I mean, we had guys that lived 3 blocks from the center and couldn't get there in time.
Right.
It's like, dude, I drove 2 hours here, I drove an hour here, and you can't get out of bed? Like, are you kidding me? So there was stuff like that. I mean, you know, we get very frustrated. It's like, you mean you don't have money for this tournament? Like, come on. You know, so there were, you know, and then I don't have to go too much in the weeds, but yeah, there's always some turmoil with something.
Yes.
And so we're fighting ourselves as much as we're battling the other teams.
Right.
So we're pretty successful despite our best efforts.
Definitely. It feels like your biggest rival was always Westland. You know?
It really was, honestly. Like, nobody could whoop our ass like us.
And what about roles? Obviously, you were the guy that was like, always contesting first packs, like in god packs on other teams. What other like iconic role were there on Westland and attributed to which?
We went through a couple of different iterations of strategies and stuff. We had a plan one time to do like an offense and defense for your good packs or your bad packs. That of course really drove that. And the idea was you put your better packs on myself, Predator, Force, and Dodger, and then your weaker packs are your role players. They would go to Monoxide, Diluvian, Exodus, Hutch. Like those guys would take the lower packs and play a little more strategic with them. And
Right.
Dodger was to find a perch. He was to find a corner, back himself into it. Predator was to find a good vantage point. Since he was a left-hander, he was very good on ramps and stuff.
Yes.
God, man, you play him in like the left tower in Westland. Like
Not fun.
it was so maddening. Like Mike was so good, so good. And then Horse and I, we were to go into the pit and disrupt the other good packs with our packs. And try to score and keep their scores in check. Try to match them. And that's how we played it a lot of times. Usually I floated between first and third pack, somewhere in there, depending on you find a pack that just feels good for you. Like
Right. Yes.
even if this is a better pack, like I do good with this pack, like I'll be fine with this, and so that's how you get situations like Predator and I first and second overall in the region.
Right.
Like he's got a really good spot and he's playing good with a good pack, and I'm crashing and banging with a good pack in another spot, and it just works out. But so it those were kind of the roles. I mean, and it changed from year to year. In like 2003, I remember Exodus was rampaging. And sometimes it changed. Sometimes it changed based on the arena. Obviously, if you're playing like Clinton Township was all floor, with some real tight quarters and stuff like that. Exodus plays phenomenal in an environment like that.
Yep.
There's no use to give Dodger first pack on that, and he can't get enough targets to make that work. But that was a lot of times like we'd pair up too. Like I'd play in front of Dodger a lot. Like I'd back him into a corner and I'd play in front of him and he'd shoot over top of me. We did that a lot. It was effective for a while, but obviously not effective enough.
Almost like barely there so many
Right.
times. So in preparation for this podcast, I actually watched the best Andy video earlier today.
That's hilarious.
Oh man, like it was really cool. Obviously, like I'm the target audience because like
Yep.
of my investment into Laser Quest, but still you get something like this, especially with your playstyle. It's flashy enough that
Right.
people go like, and there's a big argument out there that Laser Quest is not. You can't really stream it. You can't really like televise it because like Ramiro was bringing up the fact that there is no ball, right? So it's kind of confusing.
Right. There's no focal point.
That's it. But in my opinion, I was watching the video and I'm like, holy shit, I'd take like, half an hour more of this. So what's your opinion on that whole, like, can Laser Quest be televised?
I think there can be. I think you gotta. I always wondered how it would do if you got it out of the black light, because that really screws up a lot of your visuals, right? Like, could you go into a more low light environment instead of a black light? And so I always wondered if that was a possibility. Obviously, like supercut videos like that one, Force made that entire video. Matter of fact, my mom the other day, she's cleaning stuff out and she goes, "Hey, do you want this?" And she sends me a picture, and it's the old video camera I used to bring to tournaments. And there's videos in there of the Appleton 1-on-1, Mississauga Mixer, Westland 3-man or 4-man. Oh, it was 2-man. That's what it was. There's all these videos in there, so I'm gonna go get them from my mom's house, see if I can upload them or something. I think it'd be fun to watch.
You have a YouTube channel. If you're not gonna upload those on your YouTube channel, let me know.
Okay.
I'll for sure. Like that would be super interesting to have a look on.
Okay, yeah, maybe I'll just box them up and ship them to you.
Cool.
So, but anyways, yeah. So they, now I think there's a way to do it, but there's certain sports at ESPN. I mean that's the idea, right? Like,
right.
Some type of ESPN viewership or something, and so, I think there's a way to do it, but you almost got to do it like they do. Do you ever see like pro bass fishing things on there where it's like they don't show just the guy casting the pole over and over again. They show just him reeling in the fish. They show him, pulling this one in or making this one key move,
Right.
And so you almost got to do that where you get a bunch of footage and then you super cut it, and so I think that would be a way to do it. And then you post standings and graphs and interviews and key sequences of what's happening. But I think there'd have to be some changes with the arena design. There was something I watched not too long ago. I say not too long ago, maybe a couple years now. But it was outdoor laser tag system that they were using in indoor space, and they had like a league set up, and they had a camera watching it, and it was shit, right? It wasn't good, but the idea was kind of there. It was kind of like, it's potential, there's potential for it, but it's trying to get over that hump of making it work. It definitely would have to fit into like an esport type of environment.
Yeah, Twitch or like a streaming platform.
Right. Yep.
Because it very much caters to gamers.
Yep.
Okay. It is my personal opinion that I've been doing this is episode I think 9 of this podcast, and obviously I've been talking to a lot of people about Laser Quest for a lot of years. But you were, as a player, extremely dominant for basically the entire time that you played competitively, which is about 8 years or so. So had you not retired in 2007, again, it is my personal opinion that you would be a no-brainer for a top 5 list of all time. Add yourself a little bit of longevity, and you came close enough to winning an AC like so many times that, even though you don't actually have the title, you have 5 second places, 4 second places, something like that, and then a bunch of finals. What is your opinion on that? Do you think you're top 5 of all time material?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of good players out there, right? I mean, a lot of exceptional players. We actually toyed around with coming back in 2007, making a comeback with Team Westland. We were going to do all the paperwork through Madison Heights and just show up.
Right.
But we couldn't get off the ground to do it. I think if Double Quest was implemented earlier on, I think we would have at least an NAC championship, maybe 2. Because the Westland guys, even though we floundered in Triple Quest, Double Quests. I mean, if you remember playing Diluvian or you remember playing Exodus, I mean, you don't want to play those guys. You don't want to play those guys in a one-on-one.
No.
Like you need to go find Dodger. You need to try to find those guys. Like and Dodger is a guy who's going to drop 600 points in a triple, in a 3-team game. So,
right.
But Diluvian is a guy who, in a 2-team game, same with Monoxide, James 99 South, a 2-team game, he's extremely effective. So I think if we were to play in a Double Quest environment, 2003, 4, 5, somewhere in there, 6, we'd have got a championship or 2. But as far as being, I mean, there's always what ifs, right? I mean,
right.
I was very fortunate to play with extremely good players for the years that I've played. You always have regrets. You always like, oh, I wish I would have did this. I wish I would have did that. But, it is what it is. I was very fortunate to play with a lot of really good, talented people, both in Westland, and even other teams that I played with across the board. So top 5, I don't know, maybe.
Okay. You're too humble. All right, so let's move on to this next segment. So these are questions I haven't shown you actually. So I didn't want for you to get a chance to prepare to this, but I'm actually going to read you a quote from Adam for Excalibur, who said, yeah, he said, anyone who goes up in the crow's nest against Andy will have a very bad time. And he was obviously talking on his podcast about the prediction about like Mississauga. So we've touched on this a little bit. So what are some, obviously the crow's nest in Mississauga is a very good, like, playing area for you, one that you're really dominant from. Is there any other areas like this from any other mazes, any other tournaments that like stand out?
I think it comes down to just arenas I enjoy playing.
Right.
And I think when you get away from a maze aspect, like Laser Quest are usually a maze, I think you get more into an arena. I think I'd play better. So like Grand Rapids, for example, was a lot. You remember you went to Grand Rapids like 2002, 2001, somewhere in there. I remember you complaining about the drive. You're like, oh, it's another 3 hours. Like
it's like 14 hours to get there.
But that was a lot less of a maze and more of an arena,
right?
Where you had big areas and stuff to play in. So I think when you get to something like Mississauga, maybe because I started playing in Grand Rapids like that, I got used to a space like that. Even though I didn't have people to play with, it was still my home center, right? And so, because even like the areas in Westland where we would gravitate to play at, we would gravitate to more of an open area. So we would play right in front of the airlock or in the left tower, like in the red tower. We'd play right there. Big open area, a couple of cubby holes. You back yourself in there and play. And so, but then again, like I played really good in London too. Like, and that was a very unique arena. Very, very different. Because you have so many levels, and then it's so spread out. So it's really weird. But I always enjoyed playing in London. I don't know why. So I think being able to play in a place where you're comfortable and you enjoy playing it, you'll play your best.
Have you ever played Montreal?
I have not.
You would have had a good time, I think, especially if you like the London maze.
Yeah.
There's a couple of spots that I can see you playing in that you would have dominated.
I always wanted to go, and we never got a chance to. I remember James and Forrest made a random trip out there one time. It was one of the few times they didn't invite me. So.
All right. So, who do you consider to be the best teammate you've ever had?
Maybe. Well, probably the guy I played with the most, and that was Dodger. So.
Okay.
I always loved playing with Tony. I actually talked to him a couple weeks ago. Gave me a call and we shot the shit for a little while. He would, he played really good. He played great as a counter to me. It's like an anchor. Like I knew where he was going to go. I knew what he was going to do, and I knew what I had to do to work off of that.
Right.
And so I always loved playing with him. I think honestly, some of the better teammates I've had are just guys that like. And as I get older and don't play as much, I think this becomes a lot more important, and that's just to play with good people. And it's just people who are just they're gonna put forth their effort, right? They're not gonna half-ass it. They're not gonna take the easy way out on things. Like they're gonna put forth the effort that you're gonna put in. So guys like Hutch, Diluvian, and Dodger, those guys have been terrific teammates the entire time I've ever played with them. And so I always hold those guys in a little higher regard than a lot of guys. Aunt Lulo too. Aunt Lu, like I love playing with Aunt Lu. One of the goofiest code names ever, but terrific guy. And just no drama, no bullshit with that guy. Okay, that's what we're doing. That's how it's going.
Yeah. Okay. What would a Michigan all-time all-star team look like? Let's make it a 5-man.
A 5-man Michigan team. Force, Dodger, Predator.
You can pick like
with myself on the team as well.
That was actually. No, let's leave you out. You're the coach.
Okay, I'm the coach. Force, Dodger, Predator, Exodus. That last spot's really hard. I got a coach. That's rough. Force, Dodger, Predator, Exodus. Maybe Jerk or Raven. Maybe. Yeah, that'd be a toss-up for that last spot.
Okay,
we can struggle with that one. Yeah, we're gonna have to have an 18-game tryout.
Oh my god. Yeah, I was gonna say like for that last spot, I was gonna be like no one outside of Westland, but I guess like success at NEC like speaks. Apart from maybe that 97, I think Madison Knights won NEC.
Madison Knights won in 97. So yeah, I mean, but you got Jerk, Hutch, Odd, Leech.
Yeah. There were guys like Trex, Ice were pretty good.
Yeah, Cool Ice was good. He was a lot better early on.
Right.
Than he was later. I think once shoulder quest became more prevalent, he's a shorter guy. That was a lot harder, and he had a stiffer playstyle too. So,
right.
But Pat's a great guy, and super good too. I mean, there were some tournaments where it's like, damn, Pat. But
yeah, he's killing it.
Yeah.
What do you consider to be your proudest win?
I mean, it's pretty. There's a few of them, right? I mean, your last one's always fun. I mean,
right.
It's like, but in saying that, I think the VDM win was was pretty sweet. Just because it was the first time a non-South team won it. It was a homegrown roster in a sea of dynamically stacked teams.
Yes.
That one was pretty good. I think the first regional win with Westland was really sweet. Just get the monkey off our back and go. And obviously like the first one with Monoxide, like in the 2-man was a lot of fun. It's kind of like Ramiro said, it's like picking your favorite kid, right? Like it's hard.
Yeah.
Because they all have different meanings at different times. So.
Okay. Fair enough. This next question, you're not allowed to answer Westland. Who do you consider to be your biggest rival? I want a player and a team.
Biggest rival. I think early on, probably my biggest rival was Nate, 007.
Okay. Yes.
Him and I, we would just rage at each other on news groups. And so, and then, we both played different roles on our teams, and so we wouldn't play each other very often in the arena. And so, but man, there were sometimes he'd get under my skin, but I can look back on it with hindsight. It's like I can see where he's coming from on things. And it's like I get it, It's like I totally respect everything he does and everything he's done since then. And so, probably at the height, that's probably the biggest rival I had. It's just somebody I was like,
yeah, you want to beat him.
Yeah, I wanted to beat him so bad all the time. And then when I remember he came to the Michigan 3-man, him, Hocus Pocus, and Russ, and they beat us by 150 points in finals. Me, Deluvian, and Dodger. I was so mad because if you look at that Bad Andy video on YouTube, the guy talking in the beginning is Nate, and when the Force gave me the video and I uploaded it, I had it on my computer for years, and then finally YouTube became a thing, and so I uploaded it. and then it was uploaded and it was a normal video for like 6 months or so, and then they're like, hey, this has content that you're not allowed to have, so you got to change the music bed. And so because he has this monologue in the beginning talking about how, and you're going to lose again this weekend, so have a good night. And it's like,
yeah.
And it's like, and then he, then he fucking did it. It's like, God damn it, So it was, it's one reason he got one over on me. It was like, damn it. But so yeah, that was probably my biggest rival. Team rival for Westland. I'd say we played the most against Brampton. Canton was in there as well,
right?
And Rockford. I'd say Brampton, but like we were so friendly with those guys, and we became such good friends with all of them, and for so many years now. It's hard to view them as like a rival, because Westland is always such an emotional team where it's like your rival, you wanted it to be somebody you freaking hated. And so it's hard to pick Brampton as your rival, even though it's probably on paper, that's probably who it is.
Okay.
Because even the years we went to NAC finals, like we met them in playoffs.
Yes.
So.
Okay. I want to get back to my Dennis Rodman question from earlier. And let's approach it more from the angle of not drama, but more like a player who's going to like do the dirty work, do what it takes to, doesn't really share the spotlight, but a player that like is going to do the dirty deed for the team.
You know the answer. You already know the answer who that guy is. Who's going to do the dirtiest thing? Yeah. It's 100% it's going to be James. It's going to be 99 style. He's going to, if you were like, hey man, we got to shank a guy this game. No problem. I get it. Like, that's what I mean, that's how it always was. It was just ridiculous. He'd do some things, and you're like, what the hell are you doing? But probably, and he's probably the one to do the dirtiest of the dirty. But in saying that, like, that guy, man, is such an enigma. Like, he tried to be an enigma, and he was, but it was just like,
yes.
There are things like he would do. You're like, why? Like we're at practice. It's just the Westland guys. Why are you cheating this bad against me? I'm your teammate. Like, like stop doing that. Like, it was almost in like our practices, our tryouts, man. Where our tryouts at one point they stopped our tryouts one year because it was so heated and so angry. They stopped in the middle of the game, pulled all of us in the lobby, and the GM was standing at phase 2 of mission control, and he was screaming at us.
Wow.
He was like, and this was 2003. This is the year we won the Zap Award, and he was just saying, "I will shut this team down. You'll never have a team." He goes, "I don't give a shit," and he was, his eyes were watering. He was so mad. And then when we got back from NAC, we were like, "Yeah, we won the sportsmanship award." He was just staring at us like, "Ow!" Yeah, he was like, "What?" It's like, man, but we were such assholes. We really were. every game was a fight. Our practices were a fight, and it was just we're always trying to claw over one another. Like I was in prepping for this podcast. I was going through like old news group posts, just looking at stuff, and like you can see little hints of it over the years of like where. Force is running some tournament, but it's a secret. It's like invite only, and then like Casper Monoxide, a bunch of guys are just like railing on it. Like, well, why didn't I get invited? It's it's a lot of inner turmoil, a lot of trust issues and stuff. And it was always stuff like that. But yeah, it was our practice and our tryouts were just borderline a fight every time.
Okay, next.
As a matter of fact, Rochester 6-man. Force was on with Lucian last weekend, the weekend before, and so.
Oh yes.
He was talking about the Rochester 6-man, and it was me, Force, Dark Dragon, Kyle, Decoy, and Corwin. Okay, so it's kind of a shitty team, but so we're just annihilating teams, right? And then we have to play the other Westland team, which is like, it was a Westland team. It was like 2 Westland guys. I don't remember who was on it, but it was like James, Monoxide, Casper. I can't remember who else is on it. Anyways, James starts doing some of the dirtiest shit, right? And then Force starts doing it back, and then it just escalates from there, right? It just starts going out. It starts going crazy, and all the Rochester guys are marshaling, okay? And then all of a sudden it gets into a shoving match between the 2 of them. And then we're all yelling at each other, and we're all shoving each other. And then out of nowhere, Prophet from Rochester tackles Force, and then Ninja tackles James. I mean, it was, oh, dude, it was chaos. And then Corwin and Blair stand there like, what the hell? Like, yeah, like, what's going on? And, they stop the game. We all go outside, and we all chill. I mean, it was so close to a fist fight. I think Force might have threw a punch. But, I mean, it was chaos. And so that was a good a glimpse of how our practices and tryouts and stuff were. It was always stuff like that.
It's absolutely insane, like the amount of success you've had, and it also boggles the mind because then you ask yourself, what if you had a cohesive unit and gelled a little bit more as a team? What heights do you have reached? You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh yeah. I mean, it's always that what if question. It's always like, if only we would have just got out of our own way.
Who's a player that you've not teamed up with and you always wish you could play a tournament with?
Excalibur. That's one of them. Definitely top of the list. There's a lot of guys that I haven't played with that I really wanted to. I wish I would have got a chance to play with like some of the old school Rockford guys, like IRS. I would like to play some tournaments with them. I would have liked to play some tournaments back in the day when I was active with Ramiro and Nick, which I got to play with them at World Challenge or at in Vegas. But it would have been nice to play with them at a different point in my life and my career. Let's see, who else? I don't know if I think I've played with Russ, haven't I? I don't remember.
I'm not sure.
I don't remember. But he would be on that list too. If I have played with him, then I'd like to play with him again. So yeah, there's a couple of good people like that. And silly. 007, Nate, and Hocus Pocus. I would have loved to play with those guys at some point. I think that would have been a good team. Good 3-man team.
Yeah, definitely.
That was, so those guys, but Excalibur for sure. Never got a chance to really play with them. We were always opposite teams battling something somewhere.
Yep. Okay. Can you pinpoint your favorite game of laser tag you've ever played? Let's say Laser Quest.
I don't know if I can pinpoint a favorite game. I've had games where I've had more fun than others, obviously. I don't know if I can pinpoint a game.
Any games that stand out?
That's a tough one. Maybe the last game. I think a game that stands out. Probably the last game of NAC 2001. And that was in the back left tower of Colorado Springs. There was us, San Antonio, and Denver in finals, and we were letting it all hang out. And I just remember making my way around the tower, and in that back left tower, there was like a area of the tower that kind of protruded out. It was like a cage. And I remember I went up there and I was playing Malice, Liquid, Enemy, Walker Bow, Rev Knock came through a couple times, and I was just destroying these guys. And second year at NAC, I'm just throwing it out. I'm throwing it out there. You know, we already lost the first game big. It's like we're just doing whatever we can. Yep. And I was having a great game. I felt good playing. And I remember the game got over, and everybody was walking away. And Birdcage with Marshland, he was up on the wall. He hopped down. He grabbed me by the shoulder. He goes, "That was some of the most impressive shit I've ever seen." And I was like, "Really?" And then we came out. And, I think I won the game. It was awesome. Everybody chanting Westland in the lobby. I mean, it was pretty epic, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Other than that, probably the last game we played NAC in 06. Birdcage was marshaling that, and I was playing somebody from Lincoln, and kept jabbing me real close. And I was like, all right, like, hey, can you give me some space? And Birdcage is like, he's fine. And I was like, okay, well, he's in my motion, and I just started smashing his arm with my laser, just whack, one after another, whack, like that. And just to the point where he was dropping his gun,
right.
And he looked. And I remember who the hell was that? Odd Job or somebody, obsolete maybe. I don't know. It was one of those guys.
Okay.
And he looked over at Birdcage and he's like, he keeps hitting me. And Birdcage goes, "Get out of his way." I was like, man, this is a bastard. But no, that was two of the games that kind of stick out. There's a lot of games, that we played. Just a lot of stupid fun games we played. Highlanders and Predator games. We played a game in Oshawa one time. Oshawa, right? And we played a Predator game. And you remember Smoke?
Yes.
And so he was the Predator. So they pull his pack out of the tech room that's completely taped up, completely black pack, and they shut all the lights off in this fucking death trap of a maze. And so, yeah, right? And so we're in there, and we're all looking around trying to find him. And he's just, all of a sudden, you just see a silhouette go by. Whoa, what the hell is that? Right? And then all of us are getting tagged. And so we're all getting shot. We can't figure out where he's from. And I remember Virus goes, "He's on the walls." And we're like, "What?" And Virus starts spinning his gun around like this, right? And just shots are going everywhere. And all of a sudden you hear, "Ooh!" He was on the outside of the tower, hanging on to the tower. And Virus flipped his hands and he fell. And I was like, "Oh, shit." I was like, "Oh, my God." So that game always cracked me up thinking about that.
Shit, that's hilarious. Oh, man.
It was funny.
That Oshawa maze was, it was
death trap.
Okay, who would you consider to be your Laser Quest role model?
That's a hard one because there's a lot of good people, a lot of good players, a lot of people I've been fortunate enough to play with or be around. So there's little bits and pieces you pick up from everybody. I don't know if I can nail it down to just one specific guy. I think, watching Corwin play us for as long as he has and be as even keel and level headed as he is,
right.
You never see him get too animated one way or the other. He just lets it roll off. I was really impressed with that. Same with Hutch. I mean, I know like some of his younger days, he had some ups and downs, but in our later days when we were playing together in Westland, I mean, he was a calm voice, like, "Hey guys, let's be mature about this. Let's,
right.
let's get on track." And so, probably those two guys in a nutshell. I'd probably put it down to those two.
Okay, fair enough. We're almost at 3 hours, which time flies. It doesn't feel like
we got another hour and a half to get Ramiro.
Yeah, if you want to beat Ramiro, an hour and 45 minutes more. You mentioned earlier that you never said you were retired. Are you planning? If there's more tournaments, you're planning to if the opportunity is right, to play them?
Yeah, the plan was actually to play Denver next month, or not next month, July. That was the plan.
You were in Chicago.
Yeah, I was on the Chicago team.
Pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, I was really looking forward to it. There's a lot of guys on the team I hadn't played with. So I was looking forward to that. Beyond Denver, I don't know. I don't think anything was really. I mean, the nearest center to me is Rockford, which is I think that's 5.5 hours.
Okay. Oh Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, maybe 6. That lake we have right there kind of really screws everything up.
Yeah. It's a boat.
Yeah, right. I think that's my nearest center. I think Canton and Akron are both open, right? Yeah, I think those would be the next closest centers after that. And then you're looking maybe London. London's close.
Then you have to and everything, yeah.
Yeah, then you got a border and stuff. But yeah, Denver was the next tournament. It was in the plans, but being pushed back to next year, I don't know. Maybe not.
We'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, I was actually planning on it this year because I was planning on I get a sabbatical from work I've been there 15 years, and so
nice.
I get a sabbatical, so I get a month off of pay, and I got a 3-year window to take it. And so I was planning on taking it this July, and burning a good chunk of a week out in Denver and hanging out. And obviously, everything went to shit on that. So.
Yep. Okay. Well, it's good to know that we haven't seen the last of that Indy, and hopefully you make a tournament appearance.
Yeah, I hope to be.
Is there any other topics that we haven't covered? Anything else you would want before I give you the final statements? Anything else you would want to talk about?
Not really. I think we pretty much covered everything.
Obviously, we could talk about Laser Quest for hours and hours on end.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I really. I was making fun of all the other guys for long podcasts, and all of a sudden I blink and it's 3 hours. Oh shit!
There you go. It doesn't seem like it, but But okay, then I want to thank you very, very much for being on the podcast, for taking the time to doing this. I think it's really cool. Like I'm gonna keep doing this as long as people want to keep talking to me. There's obviously a sequence in which I want to do it. I'm trying to nail out all of the greats, like the player who have had the most recognition, and obviously you fit that bill. So in closing, is there anything you want to say to the community? Any closing, the closing statements is yours, basically.
So I want to thank everybody that I've ever played with or against. Thank you for doing this podcast. I conceptualized this idea of a podcast as this a couple years ago, and I never got around to do it. So I always envisioned doing this at a tournament,
right.
Like grabbing a party room a couple hours before the tournament, sitting down with some random people, and just have a little round table. That's how I always envisioned doing this. I didn't think about doing it like this, which this works great. And so it's really interesting to see the different perspectives from other players. Listen to Nick and Ramiro and Nate and Lucian and different guys. Adam. I've really enjoyed seeing where they came from, how they got to where they are, the things they've done. But like I said, I've been very fortunate to play with a lot of great players, play a lot of tournaments. I played a lot of tournaments in a short amount of time. Looking back, I don't know if I would have did it all the same way. Probably would have took a little bit better care. I would have played probably more quality than I did quantity.
Right.
But that's what we did at the time.
Yes.
But no, I was very fortunate to play with a lot of good players. Make a lot of finals, have a good track record as far as tournament wins and places. So, but yeah, thank you guys for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir, and have yourself a great night.
You as well. Thank you.